And welcome into this episode of the Depths Podcast. I'm your host, Atramentum_X, variety streamer and YouTuber. Today is July 19th, and we're talking about live after 35, maturity in online sex work. Specifically, what we're talking about is what it's like to make content as a sex worker, as a YouTuber after the age of 35, and all that entails. And yes, this is in fact influenced by the quote-unquote hag maxing meme. With us, as always, is Lady Mystique, my co-host. Say hi, Mystique.
Hi, everyone!
I'm going to have our lovely panel introduce themselves, starting with Mrs. Mummy, directly to my next to me.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mrs. The Mummy. I'm a variety YouTuber here on Twitch, but I also happen to do sex work on Fansly, and I am a 1950s inspired vintage dommy mommy aesthetic, I guess.
Thank you so much. My mummy is making her return to the podcast for episode 14, which was about making friendships with other creators in the space. Very interesting episode, by the way. You should definitely check that out if you guys are curious about that. We were on with Evertrua, Maito, and Mrs. Mummy talking about making friends and connections and such. Next up, making their first appearance on the pod is Ember Glows.
Hi, my name is Ember. I am a nail tech possessed by a self-love demon. And I'm a variety streamer here on Twitch, and I also make adult content on Fansly.
That is an incredible concept for a character, can I just say?
Thank you. We have Mr. Googs, actually, to thank for that. He gave me the idea. It's great.
Amazing.
Mr. Googs is a two-time guest of the show, including last week's episode about, I forgot. It's been a long night. But yes, Ember is also a nail tech IRL and does amazing designs. Ember, thank you for joining us on the pod. Next up, also making their first appearance is Kiwi the Pirate.
Hi, I'm Kiwi. I am your favorite Eldritch Sea monster. I'm a variety streamer here on Twitch, and I'm starting to dip my toes in good content a little bit. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You may have seen Kiwi on Twitter. Kiwi is testing out the waters, no pun intended, of YouTubing, sex work, and sort of like getting out there into that space. We'll talk a little bit more about what it takes to explore that sort of later on in one's career or VTubing journey. And of course, let's have Lady Mystique give a little bit of introduction as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Lady Mystique. I have some background in sexology. That's why Atra keeps me around. I do streams on Twitch occasionally, Fansly more often. I'm about to make my 3D VR chat debut over on Fansly next Friday. And I had a good thing to say, but I've forgotten what it is. That sucks. But hi, I'm here. We're professionals, everyone. We remember what the last episode was and why we're here.
So I won't. Hey.
Wasn't it Say So versus Unstay So?
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
Yes, the Lootsome Say So thing. Yes.
The making the Say So content versus making the loot content, separating the two. Correct. Professional. So yeah, the gimmick today is everybody, well, except me, but I'm almost, but everybody on this pod is over 35. We're not going to have our guests disclose their ages unless they want to, but let's just say that everyone here has a bit of like experience.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, I've worked in and around the sex industry and sex education for most of my life. For 6 years before I started VTubing, I owned a femdom BDSM server called Yesmas. It's sort of winding down now, but I owned and ran that place, which was frequented by sex workers, pro-doms, pro-subs, and people looking to get started in the world of BDSM. And after managing a Twitch streamer for 5 years, I've decided to take a step out and make the content myself.
Cool. Thank you as always, ladies.
Sorry, I forgot.
Awesome.
So
Sorry.
let's jump right into it. So by the way, chat, if you have any questions for us, make sure you ask them in chat. We'll get to them when we get to them, and our panelists will sort of answer questions as they see fit. They'll answer them out of order, etc., etc. So to start off, let's talk about the term mommy. So, dommy mommy, femme mommy, dom mommy, etc., etc. Like, you've heard different variations of this. So for our panel here, we have Ember, who does not identify as such. We have Kiwi, who does identify as a pirate mommy. And then we have literally Mrs. Mummy. Mrs. Mommy.
They
Mrs.
call me.
Mommy.
It's okay. They call me
So-
mommy a lot too. They'll be like,
They
"This is
do.
mommy." And yeah.
Exactly. So I guess my question for the panel is, what is the appeal of quote unquote mommy when it comes to like being a streamer making lewd content, and why did you choose to identify as such or not identify as such? This question goes for you as well, Lady Mystique. I would say for myself before we dive in. By the way, I'm 34, so I'm close to the age. But anyway,
Yeah.
I
Do you
don't-
identify as a mommy, Atra?
Well, I was gonna say I don't do the daddy thing. I think the
I was
daddy
gonna
thing is
say daddy?
kinda weird. Yeah, no, I don't like it. Like, I'll jokingly do that. I'll make the Father's Day joke when it happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I consider most people who watch me, like other folks in the industry, as like my peers. Like whether you're like 21 or 41, like I don't really see that sort of hierarchy playing out, because I am playing down. I think I am not acting like a 34-year-old man on the internet, if I'm being honest. But what do you guys think?
I don't think I picked it for myself at first when it came upon me. It was like it just got kind of thrown on me when I was originally a face cam streamer. When I was a face cam streamer, everybody would always just be like, "Oh, mommy," because I was older and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So like, I guess I played into that. And then when I was trying to come up with a name, I was trying to come up with something like really clever that kind of went together really well, like had a ring to it. And I was like, I had a friend who was British who would be like, called his wife his missus, and then he, instead of calling me mommy, he'd call me mummy. So I was like, oh, Mrs. Mummy. I was like, that actually goes really good. I was like, so I picked that because of my British friend.
I was going to say, it reminds me of that Hugh Grant in Bridget Jones's Diary, where he takes off like the big granny panties, and he's like, "Hello, mummy."
Yeah, hello, mummy. Yes, exactly. So, well, the thing is that I knew that my design also, because I was like kind of already dealing with that, I wanted to have a very kind of Stepford wife kind of look to me, like the 1950s, all prim, proper looking, but at the same time being kind of like looking really innocent, kind of on the outside, but being kind of dirty on the inside. So I wanted that vibe. So that was just bestowed upon me. So I didn't really pick it, but I mean, I dig it. So it works for me, I guess.
Some women come into greatness, others have greatness thrust upon them.
Another t-shirt idea.
Yeah.
I've never minded the mummy thing so much, or mummy, like being called mummy, as long as it's not like a maternal figure kind of thing. Like, I don't even mind a little bit of age play, like, because you can age play up or down. It doesn't need to be a like gross illegal kind of role play thing. But, mommy or daddy is kind of like a caring authority figure kind of title, which I don't mind. But it's when people start role-playing like I am a mother, as opposed to like a dummy mummy or sexy mummy or whatever, that is like, no.
Yeah, that's kind of, personally, I find that cringe too. I'm not gonna lie, that whole like, where they want to pretend like they're my child. That's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point, you don't want like a partner. You just want a mom you can fuck, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
specifically your mom, not even a mom. Not
Yeah.
even dudes looking for like single moms, out there. Like, I want a woman who's a mom. No, not even that. It's like they
Hot
want to fuck
single
their
moms
own
in your
mom.
bedroom.
Right, exactly. It's like, I want you to be my mom. It's like, nah.
I think for me, my dislike of it is very much the word itself. But I mean, I think there's something to be said for a relationship, where one person is the nurturer and the other's the nurtured. I think, but when it comes to like a mother and child dynamic, that is something I'm definitely not into, and it's not something I want to entertain. And when I hear the word mommy, that is where my mind goes, and so like I do not want to be referred to that under any circumstance.
Yeah, and
Which
some
is
people
totally
have
fair.
that. Yeah, some people have that. Like, same with dudes not liking daddy. Like some guys just don't like being called daddy for that reason. Yeah, I trust it. But I'm saying, like,
I'm not
some guys
nurturing
don't like
at all.
it. Some people just don't like it, and so it's just like a turn off to them. Like,
Nah,
don't call me daddy,
he's
don't
not-
call me mommy.
He's not nurturing at all. He beats me and locks me in a cupboard when we're not on stream.
How dare
Hey,
you?
Tommy, listen.
I will see you.
I'm more of the guy who like drops you off like soccer practice, then like goes drinking and then comes back.
Oh, he left your house today, so don't complain, or he'll put you in there now.
Master has given Misty a cock.
Oh my god, no!
God.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, for me, I think
Kiwi,
it's more.
you explicitly call yourself a pirate mommy. What's the sort of the thinking behind that?
Well, for me, I am a very independent person, and so like being submissive isn't really something I do for everybody. And so the whole mommy thing, it's kind of a joke too, because like I had a lot of younger people in my community, and I kind of nurture them as well. It's just I'm a nurturer kind of person. But I
It's
also
a role that you're like, comfortable in, essentially, with your sort of community members.
Yeah. A lot of them call me mommy as kind of sexual, and then some of them call me mommy as like I see you as a mother figure kind of thing.
Caretaker type thing.
Yeah.
So you're like the mother of the crew, kind of? Is that like your whole your pirate vibe is like you're like the head like pirate, like the mommy pirate of your crewmates?
Yes, I'm the mom that will cause chaos with you.
like the mom friend.
Yeah.
Like the mom friend, but
Oh,
pirate
like
crew.
that.
Yeah, because I get a lot of people who come to me for advice about things, and apparently I give really good advice. I don't follow any of it myself, but
That's how it be sometimes.
I feel that so hard.
I think often people get caught up with the labels around kinks, particularly when it comes to judging them. Now, this isn't about labels that you apply to yourself, because obviously you have certain associations with certain words, as we all do. And if you don't want those associations made to you, that is completely valid. But when I saw, I think it was Karma who was talking about paging Dr. Freud, which is actually something I said to Atra when we were planning this episode, and talking about like the mommy daddy dynamic versus like age play. The terms come from like associations with the word, much like furries aren't actually zoophiles. You are taking a concept that you really like or find attractive and putting it into a context where you can play with it in a sexual setting without actually dealing with the sort of
The societal taboo.
Yeah, and also and not just the taboo, but like where you're talking about people who do age play, they don't necessarily want to do things to minors. They are adopting perhaps the sort of innocence of a younger person, or they really enjoy the sort of innocent being corrupted, or feeling safe and giving up responsibility, but aren't actually age playing like this is my actual literal dad kind of thing. And I think that when it comes to engaging with kink and conversations around kink, it's important to keep an open mind and to analyze what they are doing and why they are doing what they're doing. Sorry, my nerd has come out of her cage. It's going to be 2-3 minutes.
Get back in the cupboard.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh. Sorry, I'll leave. Okay.
Like for like the whole that whole thing right there with like the whole like mommy like mother concept thing, to me for me, especially when I like refer to somebody like "oh daddy" or something, or like because I'll say it, I'll be like "oh daddy," you know, just kind of joking around usually when they do something dominant or whatever. I see it more so as being like the authoritarian within the dynamic versus that's how I see it personally. That's how I take it. So when people refer to me as like, you know, mommy, I always see it like, oh yeah, you're giving me the power here, you know, I'm the one with that's how kind of I see it. I don't see it more like oh yeah, you're my little baby. Sometimes I'll joke around like on stream like that, but like on stream I'm like, oh yeah, but not on
but you're not thinking of them as like a literal child, right?
Exactly. I'll do it on Twitch just to kind of fuck around, you know, but like on Fansly, no, I don't really like, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, let me breastfeed. No.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a power play there.
Yeah, it's more so like, oh, I'm the one with the power here, bitch. You know? That's how I see it. But so like whenever like I'll see somebody say something very like dominant or whatever, like I'll see posts on Twitter or whatever where guys are like showing like their hands and be like, I'm gonna choke you or whatever. I'm like, oh yes, daddy, you know, joking around, but that's how I take it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting?
Well, I kind of agree with that. Like,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you know, I mean, I agree with that sentiment as well because, like, the word "daddy" doesn't bother me at all, and like in a dominant position, you know, if the options are mommy or daddy, I would definitely prefer to be called daddy, and so and I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that I am non-binary, and so oftentimes feminine terms kind of make me uncomfortable. Like they just don't feel right for me. And I'm not honestly sure why a masculine type would. I think it's more sort of a I don't know. I'm honestly not sure why I prefer it, but
to be fair,
I do. So I really get that.
I was gonna say, to be fair, I do have female friends, or I'm sorry, I know you're not female, you're non-binary. You go they them, right? But
no, it's okay. I understand.
So, but you're, I meant female presenting, who actually prefer being called daddy. Like like they've been in my chat before, and I've been like, "Oh, daddy," but they're female presenting, and so like that's a preference, you know.
If I may offer a perspective, you know, you can say like whether this sort of gels with your experience or not, but I wonder if because you're AFAB and you've been sort of referred to in sort of femme terms all of your life, and inside you are non-binary, that you resist the femme sort of references and pronouns, etc., because they were forced upon you more than the masculine ones.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely accurate. Yeah.
Valid. So valid.
I definitely think mommy and daddy have different connotations also. The mommy term always implies some kind of nurturing, and that's just like a societal imprinting on that term. It's very loaded with that sort of thing, whereas daddy does not. Daddy just applies dominance for the most part.
Yeah.
Dominance. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's all to do with gender socializing. Which also plays into, and I know this is a side thing, so I'm going to make it really quick, but people who like mask people who enjoy feminization, you know, they are playing with the concept of the softer, the feminine, often something that they were denied, you know, as part of their identity, and it's a way of experiencing that and owning that and like making it right, so to speak. And yeah, I think that daddy needs to be examined the same way.
I just hear the term daddy needs to be examined. I just think, okay, time for a colonoscopy.
Oh my god.
Let's check your prostate real quick. Bend over and cough.
Wait, is that how they check the prostate?
Well, you put the finger up the bum and then you get them to cough.
Wait a second, you didn't know that? Oh no! And you're 34?
He's not quite at that age yet. Give it a few more years.
But you're getting there. Come on, you got to be ready for that. I was ready for the mammogram when it was my turn, and I was like, I had heard horror stories. I was like, oh no, time to get my boobies squished into a pancake.
Yes, that's what I see. You have to squish your boobies.
Oh, they are so painful.
Worst thing ever. I cried when I walked out. I was like, I want chocolate.
Not fun. Not fun at all.
Eat a lot of cherry tomatoes. They're good for prostate health.
The follow-up to this episode will be all about like health after 35.
Yeah,
no!
cranberry juice, cherry tomatoes. Yep.
Maybe
Take
taking
your
a
pineapple
down
theory.
You better be taking your supplements. Better be eating that calcium. Those bones are gonna start to get thin.
Oh God.
Get your magnesium in.
Oh my God! Let's not forget about the fiber.
Oh, my milk
sheesh.
of magnesia. Where's my cream of wheat?
Okay, but
No,
fiber is good no
not
matter
the
what
point.
age you are, though.
It is
good.
It is.
Because some of these VTubers be out here like, I just pooped the first time in a week. I'm like, girl, you need more
Of
fiber.
course.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God! What are you doing to yourself?
Put down the bulldog
Yeah.
noodles and
Jesus.
actually have some cereal.
No. Get you a damn fiber one bar. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, get some muesli in you,
Damn.
Jesus.
There's chocolate in those fiber one bars, okay? You can't
No.
deny them.
They're quite
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's really
I don't want to
good.
hear your mouth.
good. I'm more of a Raisin Bran daddy, but yeah, no fiber.
Oh my God. No, not the
Raisin
Raisin
Bran.
Bran. Not the Raisin Bran. Yeah.
They're good. They got raisins.
I'm older than you are, and I'm like, where are the Fruit Lips? Where are the Fruity Pebbles?
I used to have raisins in my Cocoa Pops.
Oh my God, I hate raisins and everything. Ugh.
I love chocolate raisins, so like it was
that's
really cool.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. I take it back. I take everything I said back.
I take everything I said back. I was wrong. I'm so sorry.
I was wrong. The raisin gets a pass if it's covered in chocolate.
Mhm. Most things do, I would think.
Yeah. I hear they eat cockroaches if they're covered in chocolate.
Yeah, they're called chocolate.
That is actually a thing.
That's actually a thing, yes. Chocolate covered, and they do ants too. Chocolate covered ants.
or chance
And scorpions in popsicles, like suckers.
or chorpions.
Oh my God.
Scorpions.
Anyway.
So this is about being over
Sorry about
35.
that.
I want to talk a little bit about terminology and definitions and just how do we talk about people who are over 35 in the VTubing space. So let me start us off with the hot topic. The hot topic. We know hag, quote-unquote hag, is a derogatory term, but how do you feel about being referred to as a quote-unquote older woman by people in chat or other VTubers?
I mean, I'm in my MILF arc. I've said so I don't mind that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm very open about my age.
I think it would depends on context, but I think if someone's
Yeah.
simply referring to me as that because I am older than them, or like they're comparing me to someone younger than me, like that doesn't bother me. I am older. But I think there's such a, like you said, there's a lot of connotations just literally around the word old.
Yeah.
People get very offended by it, but it's like, if it's comparative, and even if someone were to call me old, it all depends
It's often
on
very
context.
negative,
If it's
particularly
clearly-
in the context of women
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
femmes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That like for me, like I think it doesn't bother me that people call me an older woman because I am, or like a MILF. Like I openly say I'm MILFy aged, meaning just older. That's how I kind of cuten it up. But like my thing is that why are people always so like hyper fixated on the age of a woman versus like people never like really ask how old men are, you know, like they don't care. They're like if they're a little bit like let's say no, they're like older than 25, they don't care. They could be 25, they could be 45, they usually don't give a shit. You know, it's like for the most part they usually don't, and that's the thing. It's like they just don't fixate on that. But like with women, it's always like, you know, even in like you know, adult entertainment, those like barely legals, you know, or it's like it's either you're like there's three. It's either barely legal, MILF, or you're gonna go for the grandma.
The granny.
Right. There's only three. There's nothing else. And for the men, it's just men or maybe older or old. Like, you know, it's like regular
like grandpa,
men,
silver
or
fox.
grandpa, right? And that's it. And then they get the silver fox too. Like that sounds sexy. Silver fox. You're gonna like silver fox. We get hag, and y'all get silver fox. That's some bullshit.
Also, sorry, Ember. I didn't mean to step on your point.
No,
I was apologizing to Ember, and I did it again. I'm sorry.
No, I was done. That's all right.
I won't say anything.
You're fine.
I'm going back to the cupboard now.
Bring back some raisins while you're down there.
Cupboard raisins, yum.
Ooh.
No, it just feels wild to me because like there's this great meme where it's like, I can't believe these people are calling this old, like these 20-year-olds are calling us old. Like we won't be in the same retirement home. Like I'll see you at the
Yeah.
I think that actually, I'm going to let other people talk before I let my nerd out of her cage again. She's already come out once.
Maybe let the nerd out.
Yeah.
What about I was gonna say, did Kiwi say how they feel about being a mature woman?
I don't know. It doesn't really bother me because like I don't act my age at all. I'm like, I'm still in my 20s. What do you mean? Oh shit, my knees hurt. Like the only time I'm ever really reminded of it is when I stream with one of my friends and he keeps calling me grandma.
I saw that. I did see that.
And he just does it to get a rise out of me.
Yeah.
So,
like, why though? Like, why? Like, why get a rise out of you for like being older? Like, I guess the question. That's just like the fun dynamic you have, or
yeah, just our relationship because we've known each other for such a long time, and he is 11 years younger than me, so he likes to throw that around sometimes. I just tell him
be
to
in the
put in
same
shoes.
generation, be 11 years apart. That's
Yeah,
meaningful.
I know.
Yeah.
The generations aren't as big of a gap as people think they are.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to when it comes to like VTubing is that everyone is in very different stages of their lives, compressed in the very like 20-year like sort of slot from like 18 to like 38. You know?
Yeah.
Because you got people at school, you got people like struggling with their first like job, and you got people like who are full-on professionals and like with kids and like married and such at the other end of the spectrum. And yeah, I guess when you're like at the bottom of that and you're looking up to the top and you see a fully fledged adult, it's like, damn, this person is so old.
Yeah.
In the same way you're in kindergarten and you thought the sixth graders were really, really old.
I think that with VTubing, there's kind of two things at play here. The first is the sort of pressure on IRL meat space human women to be young and look young and hot and perky, and if you're not, then like you can embrace your sexuality but only as a cougar, like with your sexuality as part as like your age being part of your sexuality. It's, you know, once you're no longer the young sort of ingenue, so to speak, you are an older woman, and that's just that. I think, was it Amy Schumer who did that sketch about the last fuckable day?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
don't really follow Amy Schumer that much.
Yeah, me neither, but that one was good. The other thing is, of course, because we are avatars, there is the influence of anime. Now, anime accounts for 60% of the entire world's animated content. It is a huge influence on people's lives and their media consumption, whether they know it or not. And there is, whether someone is like just in high school, say 16 years old, or like, out of college, or like 35, as long as they're not mothers, they all look the same. They all look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then you've got the mother who always dresses in like the smock with the side ponytail, and her eyes are always closed, and she always talks in this kind of slightly breathy
And she's
voice.
always in the kitchen.
And she's, come on, like little Billy, or whatever your name is. And so there's that. And also they have the sort of lolly side of it, where you have a literal child-coded character that they go, oh, it's okay, she's actually 475 years old. And it's like, okay, but why did you draw her like that?
Yeah.
So I think that those forces are all working in VTubing to make it seem like we are supposed to be ageless and sort of forever young, forever like energetic, peppy, just out of college, like, ooh, I'm so fresh-faced and like ready to face the world. When actually we have a much broader life experience, and I really applaud people who make that part of their design, because I wasn't brave enough to do that. And I think many people are in the same boat.
I think maybe I didn't do that because I only heard about VTubing like 6 months ago, and I don't really watch a lot of anime. I have many friends who are into it, so I'm familiar with it, but and so when I first got into it, I was just thinking about like cool character designs, like what I thought would be cool, and as far as like my persona, it was very much just me. The whole possessed by a self-love demon, that was just Mr. Goog's idea, and I kind of ran with it because it was perfect for me. But my impression of VTubing as like an industry, I'm only just recently realizing how much anime influences it, and so because I haven't been doing it for very long, I don't feel like I've really seen the impact, as far as myself goes and my content. But I mean, I'm sort of, expecting it at some point.
Ember says this, but they actually have pink hair IRL.
I do. Yeah, I do.
I love having
Actually
pink hair.
anime coded, just putting it out there.
It's like the whole like my anime waifu,
Yeah,
like
well, the whole
concept.
waifu husbando thing.
Yeah, and so it's like I think a lot of the times people think that their model has to fit that whole, can this VTuber be like my chosen anime protagonist that would be my love interest possibly, and so when they think of that, they always think of like the animes that they watch, which most animes are like, like romance animes or whatever, usually like teenagers, new love, and so they have to look youthful and stuff, and peppy and like adorable, looking for the most part. Not everybody, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like that kind of does influence a lot of people to feel like their model should look younger. I personally wanted my model to look a little bit more mature, which with her design, she still looks really young. And sometimes when people, like, I get artists to draw my work, sometimes they make me look really young, and I'm like, whoa, she looks like she's 12. But and I'm like, no. But for me, I did try to do that, but I don't think also that it's something that a lot of artists, even in the industry, kind of know how to do. I'm sure they can, but I have seen also in a lot of places where artists openly say, will not draw mechs, will not draw elderly, will not draw, and that's one of the things that says they'll put up. They will not draw elderly people because they don't know how to draw them. And so it's like, okay, so that's a little bit hard then to find an artist within your then price range that might be able to draw you looking older, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, they're only
no wrinkles, no lines, just
Right.
flat
Yeah.
body
Mhm.
with titties.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
they'll get the titties right. Don't worry. That's
Yeah.
the one they're usually all good
Will
at.
they though? Will they though? Like, do they get the heft right of the big titties? Do they actually though?
They usually get them right. I don't think I've ever seen a VTuber who I was like, oh, their titties are horrible. You know, it's usually that's always at least the one thing I can compliment is yeah, well, at least their titties are great. But yeah, no.
It just
Yeah,
feels
no.
like I've never seen anyone like have like sort of the sag or like sort of like because you know titties when they're big they tend to go they're not
The
perky.
gravity.
Well, there's
they
that-
like the gravity.
Well,
There's
have you
that,
seen my nude?
Rubenesque thing.
Have you seen my new my nude model?
Hey.
I have.
Let's just say that they're not super perky. Let's just say that
You
they're
know,
not.
fair enough.
They're not
There's-
super perky.
There's a Rubenesque model as well that her design is like she's in a classical painting.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
fabulous.
Mary Sanders,
She's-
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
love
she's
her.
like the exception.
So she did that herself. Like that's her
Yeah.
own drawn
Mm.
rig model.
And she fastened it after herself.
Yeah.
I think also like, and I'm speaking for myself here, but VTubing has sort of given me the opportunity to pour myself into the body that I have been socialized into thinking was the most beautiful and attractive and desirable. And I wonder if that has an effect with anyone else who like, not just limited to the panel here, where, you know, you have the opportunity to be whatever you want, so you become the thing you've always wanted to be.
I mean, I've tried
I
to
think
roll
that's-
it back. Like you know, every artist draws me with like an 8-pack or a 10-pack, and I'm like, listen, let's be realistic here. But the
Yeah, but your
problem
model is just
We love
you.
the dad bods. Come on now.
yeah. But yeah, when you
What's a
try to
dad
roll it
bod?
back though, and you give them a reference, like they're just like making you look bloated, and it's like, well, that's not quite what I wanted either.
Yeah.
Yeah, or pregnant, yeah.
Yeah.
Omegaverse? What?
I feel like when I was talking to the artist who drew my very first image of me, I very much just really liked her style, and she had put a call out to she's like, oh, I want to draw more, you know, plus size babes, and I'm like, cool, that's what I'm looking for. And so I honestly wasn't even thinking about what would be sort of, you know, palatable or I guess in the VTubing LewTuber sense, what would be like fuckable, you know.
Fuckable.
I was
Yeah.
very much just like, here's a body style that I think is cool and, you know, is somewhat close to mine, because I definitely wanted a plus size model. And it's only been recently, like when I had the character drawn, I hadn't even really planned to be a VTuber or anything like that. And so I was just like, no, I just want to make audios. And so I just want to, you know, a face to that. But then once I started getting into this, I'm like, okay, well now I need a model if I'm going to do VTubing. And I went with that same artist who's going to do it for me because I really liked her style, and she does plus size characters, and that's really all I cared about. And everyone's like, oh, you know, thinking about, you know, what was going to appeal to people. Maybe I kind of wondering if I should have thought about that more, because I was very much just picking something that appealed to me.
I think
I like
I mean
that, though.
there's two sides to that, but like I mean when it comes down to it, it's what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable being a skinny anime babe on the internet, like it's gonna work for you. If you're comfortable being like, you know, a big girl on the internet, it's gonna work for you too, because everybody has their interest. The internet's huge.
See, I'm larger in real life. Like I'm a plus size.
Me too.
lady.
Oh, yeah, same.
So, but when I went to go get my model made, and again, I was like, you know, a virgin to this whole industry and stuff. Even if I had wanted my model to be plus size, which I did, when I looked at my draft, I was like, wow, I really wish she had a bit more meat on her bone, you know, and my model's not super thin anyway. Like, look at her thighs, they're meaty, you know. She's got a meaty body to her, especially like my new model. But still, I wanted her to be a little bit more fluffy, you know, and yeah, you just at the time when I started about like you just didn't see that. Like nowadays, I see people like branching out a bit more. But when I first started, and it just that wasn't like available. I'm glad that they're doing things now. Where they're branching out and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, my model mama is Japanese, so her style is very much based in the typical anime style, which is why I have giant boobs and a tiny waist.
Yeah.
This is a good point from Shimmy in chat. Shimmy is Asian, actually. I think culturally, it's been ingrained to me, slim, fair skin, big boobs equals pretty. Asians are extremely judgmental when it comes to body size.
I've said before that I really wish that we'd had the body positivity movement when I was growing up, because it was, I was raised in South Africa, so it wasn't necessarily about being pale, but it was about, at least for sort of the English and Afrikaans people, white people, it was about being thin. And Johnny Depp was the hot topic, Kate Moss, heroin chic, like rail thin
heroin
people.
chic. Yes. And if we're all millennials here, I'm sure a lot of us have probably went through like eating disorders growing up.
Oh yeah, big time.
Every single one of us. Like
I'm in remission for a couple of eating disorders, and I think that if we had the body positivity movement, I would have been able to accept myself so much more, and so much less damage would have been done.
There's a lot to be said about
spent
issues with VTubing, but body positivity is one thing that we're generally pretty good with. I would give us credit for, I'd say.
I think, at least in my experience, in as far as sex work and specifically like kink communities, most of them are pretty body positive as well.
I think I would agree with that.
That's my experience, though.
No, you're right.
I did want to ask though. So this is specifically now about like the hag thing and like the referring to women after 25. So there's a couple ways that people talk about this online. One is the hag thing, the Christmas cake thing, which comes directly from Japanese anime, which is like after 25 you're less desirable, nobody wants you, you're quote unquote left on the shelf. If we're talking about Western, like sort of manosphere, like incel ideology, it's called the wall, where after 30, like your looks are gone and you start to blow up, etc., etc. So I want to ask in terms of VTubing, LewTubing, and sex work now, because we have this sort of on the side and we know this exists. Do you feel that the way people talk about women in their 30s is in any way patronizing or even fetishized in the VTubing community?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no getting around that. That is just a fact, I feel like. Whether or not it's harmful is another story. It depends on who's saying it. Now, whether or not it's harmful or but fetishized, absolutely. Harmful, sometimes no. Sometimes yes. Just depends on who's saying it and how they're saying it. But yeah, for sure.
I think regarding...
I'll say something real quick and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
I think when it comes to like this is the stated like position of this podcast is like conventional norms go out the window when we start talking about sex work, because fetishization, marketing, porn terms, hentai terms, it's different from like polite company, like and like that's why I say like not all fetishization is bad when it comes to like selling porn, doing sex work, and so on. That's sort of my disclaimer. That's sort of the stated position of the podcast in case anyone listening is wondering. But Mystique, you were saying?
I was actually, Shimmy actually started bringing it up, where I was going to agree and expand on Mummy's point about whether or not things are harmful, and make the point that when people find things attractive, you don't choose what you find attractive, even if it's something that's really disgusting or repugnant to you, and something that can be very distressing. People who are into bodily effluence, for example, it's not something that you're like, yeah, I'm going to be into piss, or whatever the thing is. Also, it's 2 a.m. and my window's open, so that's really fun. But you find attractive what you find attractive, and one of the ways to deal with that in a healthy way is to examine why. And I think with age fetishism and fetishization of things that people can't help, such as age, race, gender, sexuality, it can be dealt with in a healthy way, but it will happen regardless of whatever we do. And often it is rooted in societal taboos that people are sort of exploring now that they have the privacy, and resources to do so.
You're not supposed to like older women. You're supposed to like someone your own age.
Look, I made a tweet one time on Twitter and it blew the fuck up.
Oh, I was trying to say something.
Yeah.
1 sec.
Sorry. I was just gonna say I think that expanding on that, like, it's very much about consent in that way. If you're fetishizing someone, I mean, as doing sex work, there's sort of an inherent objectification and even fetishization, especially if you're on the kink side of things. And so that is a transactional relationship that everyone is consenting to. And so, and I also think, like you said, that can be a healthy, not harmful way to explore that, right? And but there is also, we're all still people as well, and so I think it, like you said, it very much depends on context, who's saying it, who's fetishizing, and like where that consent lies.
Kiwi was going to sort of lead into this, but Kiwi actually went viral for a little bit a couple weeks ago. Want to talk about Kiwi?
Look, I have a very, very strong sex drive, and I made a tweet saying, because I always have these like 20-year-olds in my comments and the DMs talking to me, and I'm like, you can't keep up with me. I'm sorry. I've tried that. You can't. And then it just proved my point. They kept going, saying they could. And it's all people 25 and between 18 and 25 that were in this tweet. And it shows that how much in this day and age that people are turning more towards mature women.
Yeah, I made a tweet once. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going. I thought you were.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I made a tweet once that said, "Stop flirting with me. I'm old enough to date your daddy. I'll be your stepmother. I was like, I'll be your stepmother next month or something." And they were like, "So we'll take." Like, so many people were like, "So we'll both do you or whatever." And I was like, "Wow," I was like, "Jesus Christ!" But I was like, "Stop flirting with me. I'm old enough to be like, I'm old enough to date your daddy." And so. Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. They like it. It's like they enjoy it. They're like,
they like the challenge is what it is. It's the challenge.
And I think it has to do a lot of the times when they talk to me, it's the whole maturity thing. They say like, "Oh, well, women your age have your shit together," and I'm like, "Which women my age have their shit together?"
Right?
Because definitely not me.
We have an anime girl on the internet. What are you talking about?
I'm like, bro, it's definitely not me. It's like, well, you work and it's like, yeah, all right. Well, like,
we're millennials. We can't afford. We can't afford any shit to have together.
Bro, I can't afford to be a full-time VTuber like some of y'all. What the hell?
Right.
Oh my god.
I got bills to pay.
They're so lucky. They get to stay home being a VTuber all day long. I gotta go work. But no, I was sorry. I was just like, oh god, yes, I get that, because I did the same. Like, that kind of happened to me too, and they were like all over it. They went insane over that.
They definitely see it as some kind of challenge. They're just like, yeah, no, I'm like, a lot of people come into this space, a lot of young men, especially between like 18 and 25. This is not dissing them at all, because I used to be a male between 18 and 25, but you think you're the biggest stud in the world when you come into this space sometimes.
Oh,
especially if you become a little bit popular.
Yeah, and
my
it's like on
God.
Yesmas, we'd have these like 19-year-old doms, like dom as in female dom, come in and calling themselves like goddess and empress, and I wanted to be like, you're like a fetus in a jar, just sit down. You have no idea.
None.
But you're so right about, like, the 18 to like 24-year-old guys who are socialized into thinking they have to be like the big I am, big dommy daddy, like trying to step to older women to prove themselves, and it's just like
it's a cultural thing. Look at all the movies between like 2000 to 2010, like about like guys like having to like prove their sexuality, having to like bed older women, quote unquote, like, you know, friend's mom.
2000s sex comedies have so much to answer for when it comes to like damaging takes on women and relationships with women, because like, you know, all those college like sex comedies were about getting laid and losing your virginity, and it literally did not matter what the person was like. A woman was just a hole to get your cock into.
Those were not like
baby dom and chat, not just sending you.
And they were all like male centered comedies, you know, they were all male centered. The protagonist, like the main characters were all male, the girls were just like these flat characters that just like their dynamic was, oh, she was the naked foreigner who got naked in his room, you know, she had no personality or whatever. And that's the thing, like they didn't really have any. I saw one that was female centered, and it was called Coming Soon, and Ryan Reynolds played the love interest in that movie, and it was kind of opposite. The girls were the ones who were having all the sex, and they were like teenagers, and I really needed that growing up. That movie actually made me very sex positive at a young age. Like at the age that I watched it, I was like, because again, all the other comedies were, and I recommend it to anybody. It was called Coming Soon, and it was like the only comedy I think I've ever seen within that time frame where the comedy was based on young teenage girls going to high school trying to lose their virginity and stuff, and the boys were the characters that were very flat.
Well, it's like American Pie versus like 10 Things I Hate About You. Like the female side of that is you know, dangle sex to make him love you. And the male side of that is make her love you so she'll give you sex.
The vending machine theorem.
Exactly.
You put enough nice like coins into it, bowl comes out.
Yeah. Put kindness coins into the vending machine and sex falls out.
Yes.
And it's interesting with like 10 Things About You, how the main female character was considered a bitch and cold. Until he went through all this to prove to her.
Which was the one where they took her glasses off and suddenly she was hot?
She's all that.
She's all that, yes.
Yes. Same thing. Yeah, take your glasses off, wear the red dress, and like, you know, dangle sex to make him interested and like basically make him fall in love with you. It's like, yeah, it really set up the sort of societal expectation that men want one thing and women want the other, and they use what the other wants as the price for their own gratification.
It's so weird to me that like from the VTubing space we took everything from anime, but we kept the toxic like 2000s teen comedy approach to sexuality.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, you know, in anime, you know, it's changing now. It is starting to change, but like, you know, anime, particularly things like slice of life anime, takes inspiration from real life, and you see, you know, the guys who gang up on the girl and they're like, oh, come and have tea with me, and there's like 15 guys around this one tiny little girl who's like putting out all of the no vibes possible that they're just willfully ignoring. So like I there's a lot of problematic stuff there as well.
There's also this element of like putting people in their place, I think. When it comes down to like, you see someone who is like on a pedestal, like, you know, they're older, they're confident, they're mature, they're presenting like dominant vibes, and then a lot of people take that as a challenge rather than trying to mold themselves to that person's vibe. Does that sort of make sense?
Yes.
It's like, oh, I see this one out here, I'm gonna take them down a peg by saying, yeah, I could keep up with you, I could fuck you, I could like you say that you, like, you know, I couldn't do it, I'm gonna take that as a challenge and say, yes, I can, you know? Not knowing anything about you or anything, you know?
You know what movie was actually really great was The New Guy, where it was this really dorky guy who like made himself over to be
that
like
movie.
Yeah, like be a complete badass, and then the heroine he wanted love, and the heroine fell in love with the real him. It was like a stripping away of the layers rather than putting them on. And like the steps, the literal like visual metaphor of the steps, on which like all the different social stratifications hang out. Like the steps are big enough for everybody at every level. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that they can be confident and sexy and whatever without having to knock someone else off to like
Be dominant. Yeah.
to stand there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, show me that movie where they deprogram a Twitter incel and make him a decent dude. Like that's.
Oh
that's
my
what
god,
we need to
yes.
see.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've talked a lot this episode. I'll be quiet.
That's
No, you're
that's
fine.
yeah. That's the point because you are.
That's why you're here.
You are part of the conversation.
Yeah. It's why he takes me out the cupboard.
But I want to flip that around now. So we talked about sort of like guys challenging and sort of like trying to subvert that. What is the flip side of that? Now we're talking about people who come in like seeking that mommy figure, like wanting to be submissive in chat, wanting to be dominated. What is the appeal? Because you can get dominated by a lady of any age. But what is the appeal of someone who seeks out, someone who's 35, 36, 40? Like, what is the appeal of people who are quote unquote hag maxing and chasing like this sort of person? I would say what it seems to be for me, so this originated in 4chan, for those of you who don't know, listening at home. Hag maxing is a stupid meme where it's like, oh yeah, no, like I'm going to date an older woman because they have more like resources and they can take care of me and all this sort of like, this is all the things that she can do for me, and she's going to be so grateful to have me because, I'm amazing. I've got a young cock. Like, I think that
I've got a drawer full of them.
Yeah. They don't disappoint me.
They don't disappoint me.
This one is going to somebody else's chat when they're done with you.
Yeah, you're totally right about that though, because like I'll be on like Tinder, right? And I'll be like scrolling through Tinder, and there'll be like all these like really hot young guys, and I'm like, okay, too young for me, but I'll just scroll through them, and I'll look at their bios, and they always say like, if you're like, oh, older women, I love older women, where's my sugar mama?
Right.
It's like, where's my sugar mama? They'll ask, and it's like, hello, has it changed? Things have changed. The dynamic has shifted.
Where's my hot young chaebol who owns like a string of companies and will keep me in luxury for the rest of my life?
Right?
I mean, like, if they're on Tinder, they have set their settings to be seen by people of that age too. They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they know.
Yeah.
And then like when sometimes they'll they'll have a funny bio or something, and I will like swipe on them, and they'll instantly message me with the whole, "Oh, mommy, yeah, ooh, come step on." Oh yeah, and I'm like, oh god.
Oh, God.
I
I thought that was a VTuber thing.
No.
There are people that are full on
That
faces
is-
out doing that.
Yes. Oh my god.
They got their
If
jobs.
I-
they got their
shame.
names,
Oh my
their
god,
kid-
yes.
the government
Their
name and
name,
everything.
everything, all out there. It's all out there. Pictures of their car with their license plates, all out there. All
my
out
God.
there.
Location
And they're like,
everything.
oh,
Stepped
my.
on.
Yes, they want to be stepped on. I mean, being stepped on is probably like one of the nicer things they want me to do to them. There has been worse. So, and I'm like, and I'll tell them, I'm like, dude, I could be probably like almost your mom, right? And I'll tell them, I'm like almost old enough to be your mom. If I was like a teen mom, I could definitely be your mom.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, if I was on Teen Mom, you'd be my kid right now. And they'd be like, so I like that, and they don't care. They're like
They
totally
don't.
into it. I'm like, oh my god. I'm the one who's feeling dirty here, and he's being a dirty slut to me.
I think
I'm like,
I think women, as opposed to men, are defined a lot by their age as well, just based on their role in society. You've got the sort of schoolgirl innocence, which like that's a whole thing to unpack in itself. And then the college girl, and then the young 20s, fresh in the city, fucking everybody. And then you've got the sort of the mom, and then you've got the MILF who's supposed to be
But you see how
like
it jumps? That I was going to mention that. You see how it jumps from being early 20s, like young ingenue in Hollywood, to then being the mom. There's no in between roles. That's the thing for women. There's no in between roles. Sometimes actresses don't work for that amount of time too. They have to wait and come back when they get older, which is crazy. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the mom, and then you've got the cougar, where her kids have all moved out, and she's out to screw the young blood. And then you have
if
you're a mom, like you can't be a mom with young kids. You got to be a mom with like grown kids to be attracted to be sexy again.
Yeah, and then you've got like the grandma, right? And with guys, it's like you've got the college jock dude, guy in education, and then he goes out to work, and he is a working man, and then a grandpa, gardening death, like that's...
But do you notice how, like, if it's like a older, like, elderly woman, that it's played off as a joke if they're sexual in like a lot of popular culture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also played off as a joke if you're fat.
True.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yes. It's like, imagine this like old lady thinking that she can be sexual. Isn't she silly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, if you look in anime, again with anime, like there are no fat protagonists that are sincerely loved and desired by the other people. They are always a figure of fun, or their weight is played off as a joke, or they're just ugly or evil. It is always a bad thing.
Or they have to or they lose all the weight.
That's
there is one.
Ore no Monogatari, where the guy is kind of big, has like a bulbous nose and large.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah. He doesn't have to.
I
change
fucking love that one.
He's actually perfect as he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the cute protagonist that was really annoying, because she'd just cry and run away in every episode, and you're like, oh my fucking god.
I mean, that tracks with. Anyway.
Noted.
Just wanted to see if I've checked all my boxes here before we move on. Yeah, no, like there's a great like term that Stick used the other day, which is like wanting a mommy you can fuck, and it's basically oh, we lost Kiwi.
What? Oh.
Yeah, you're invisible now.
Oh.
Yeah. Kiwi has dived into the depths, unfortunately, but she will be back soon. Yeah, no, it's like this idea that this person can like do everything for you if you are the laziest person in the world, basically.
I think what you said, and I think someone in chat said this too, rings true. Like, young men especially thinking that they can score with older women simply because, we're desperate or, clearly in need, which I find hilarious, especially nowadays, like, especially with millennial women and femmes, like, we're all so fucking tired of men. It's like we protect our peace more than anything, and so like unless you're gonna add something to our lives, like we don't need you. So like to act as if you're gonna score with an older woman because you think we're desperate, it's like you're gonna be sadly disappointed, my guy.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great one.
I think also is that when we were growing up as millennials, the dating scene was completely different too. Like that's how it, like that's how I feel anyway. Because like for me personally, I'm like, bro, if you want this, then why are you not wooing me? Why are you not like coming at me, bro? Like you want me to chase your ass? I ain't doing it. Like where are my flowers? Where's my compliments? Like you're supposed to be like, I'm used to being like treated like a lady. Even as a millennial, like the dudes were still like, okay, fine, some of them were trashy and aggressive, but at the same time there was still that I'm gonna ask her out on a date, I'm gonna take her out. And we didn't have that whole hookup like culture that is so huge right now. We didn't have Tinder going up. We didn't have any of those things. So
I think it plays
totally
into
different.
how many women in our generation are childless as well.
Yeah,
because women our age would usually have a couple of kids by now. That was the social expectation. And I think that particularly younger millennials or older Gen Zs still think of like older women in those terms.
Yes.
Whereas like, you know, there is not that much in my life that distinguishes me from you, you know? I don't have kids. I'm chronically online. I scroll Twitter all day and,
Yeah.
you know.
TikTok.
What? We're broke. We can't have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah, I'm like,
like the people before us like have like 1 billion kids, and they're like, good for you. Your economy was great. Like, I'm not gonna ruin my life by having a child right now. I have no money.
yeah. I can barely take care of myself. How am I supposed to take care of a child too?
Right.
Exactly. Like, you know, back when college was $200 a year.
Oh my gosh. We're all in. We have student loan debt still that we're paying off.
Still.
You know, yeah, exactly. We're almost. Some of us are over for. You know, after 35. Some of us are still paying off student loan debts. What the heck? You expect us to throw a kid in there? They're expensive.
There's this meme going around like hard right Twitter, like talking about Japan. It's like Japan has social services, a monocultural nation, a strong identity, horny population, which by the way is just completely wrong because they just steam each other porn. Why is the birth rate so low? It's like, yeah, you're so close. You're so close. You're almost there. You almost understand why they're not having kids.
They said that
so fucking much.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a
they
lot
said
of
that
needs
they're-
there too.
they're opening up a visa for people to come and have babies there, is what I saw.
That's
Does Japan-
That's definitely.
Well, then it was a meme that I saw
It was
that
a meme,
Japan
yeah.
supposedly said that they were going to allow visa for people to come in there and repopulate Japan. Supposedly, because the birth rate was too low.
That is
I
the
was
Bring
like-
plot.
you in. It's to work the fields. It's not to
I
populate.
was like, I guess I'm going to Japan.
That is the plot of so many hentais.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh no, we need to repopulate the world. Quick, there's only 5 men left.
No.
Yeah, in hentai it looks like that. In practice, it's called banning birth control and making you give the kid for adoption.
Yeah.
Looking at you, America.
About the like whole mom versus like sexy younger lady thing, the movie Mad Max kind of portrays that too.
Yes.
Where they had like the beautiful young ladies that the guys were gonna like impregnate, but then once the ladies had the babies and they were of a certain age, they had them all tied up to these things where they were just milking them for their milk and using them like where they were using them basically
It
like
was real.
cattle.
Yeah.
They were obese. They were these really obese women because they weren't allowed to move, and they were just hooked up to milking machines that, like, they were just cows essentially.
Yeah.
But
Once they lost their appeal.
Right, but at one time they were those beautiful young girls that he wanted. But then once they were no longer, once they had too many babies or fluffed up or were over age, that's where they put them,
What a weird misunderstanding of nomadic culture, by the way.
Well, that was a deliberate commentary on the women's place in society. I don't think they were like, oh, this is what desert people do.
No.
They milk
No,
their
of course
aunties.
not. Yes.
No, it was a social commentary moment. Even though it was passed through really quickly, like they didn't really like go into depth about it. But like me seeing that scene, I was like, it made me feel like so dirty.
But then
I
at
was
the
like,
end, they were the ones that released the water,
Yeah.
which was really cool. Like the water came flooding out, and then you saw these like big women walking to the entrance of where the water was coming from the reservoir, and them being cheered for because they'd been restrained for so long, and even though it was a small thing, they did something.
Yeah.
And I think they referred to them as mothers, didn't they? They would say
Yes,
mother's
they did.
milk, right? They were like mother's milk, they said throughout the movie. And that was the thing. They saw them as mothers of the society. Like, which is like, again, like another social commentary of how people view women and the whole mommy thing.
This has been like a movie review podcast as well.
Sorry.
I mean,
Well, I think it's
you
because
can
of
definitely do that at some point.
Well, I think because society and stuff like is so like like how they view women and age and stuff is so ingrained even in like in pop culture. I think that's why it keeps being brought up, is because like, oh well, in this movie they did this, in this movie they did that, because it's like that's where we see it, and that's also what continues like the circle of it being like poorly like misjudged, I guess, or poorly portrayed, because it's gonna continue if that's how they keep portraying it in movies, you know.
This is a great segue into the next question. So I'm going to set it up. Essentially, I want us to talk about VTubing as being a young person's industry, and like how anime and idol culture sort of influences that. And to sort of start us off, I'm going to use Karma's question in chat here. So Karma says, how has being a VTuber helped you with coping with your aging? Aging is so stigmatized for women. Leading on, does using an avatar help your personality shine, or did it encourage you to separate your VTuber persona from yourself?
I'm gonna go last because my nerd will come out again.
I'll go first.
Yeah,
I'll go first because I've already sort of said this. Like, you know what's funny? The phrase "coping with aging" I find kind of funny because like I never have felt like, I mean, not so far, I haven't really felt the need to cope with my age, in the sense that I don't really feel like it holds me back or anything like that. Again, I am very new to VTubing, so you know, that may change, but you know, and as far as my avatar, it is very much based on me, and so in a way I do think it helps my personality shine. And I think in general, a lot of people are always surprised when I tell them how old I am. So I don't know if maybe I just don't give off a very mature air or what, but I think I just never really thought of my age as an issue much until I started doing this.
Maybe they just don't expect to see 40-year-old VTubers.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, yeah, my age has never really been an issue for me either. Like, because I forget how old I am sometimes. I don't feel like I'm in my 40s. I don't feel like I'm old. I'm just me all the time. Like, this is just
well,
me.
The idea that like 40 is old is also kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Like we've been taught that 40 is old, especially for women and femmes, but like it's not. It's middle aged. We still got many years ahead of us, you know? And so like
double.
yeah. So like I think that us feeling like that, I think is also a generational thing. Like this generation, we understand that just because we're a certain age, again, like you were saying, doesn't mean we've got our shit together. And I think there's been a lot of commentary about millennials in general and like how we don't feel like quote unquote adults because our experience with, you know, society and economy has been so different from previous generations.
Yeah, I feel personally, I always joke around that I feel stunted to the year that I lost my virginity. I always joke around. It's like I always joke around. I'm like, I still feel like I'm 16. Like I feel like I don't feel like an adult. I don't know what an adult's supposed to act like. I feel like I've gone through life experiences that have made me, you know, more mature to deal with certain situations. But as in, do I feel old? No. And I certainly don't look it in real life. Like when people see me in real life, people always say, oh, like I look like I'm in my late 20s, you know, or early 30s at most. I don't really look my age, and I don't particularly sound my age. But again, the whole like the fact that I am is the only thing that ever comes up. Like the fact that I am my age is the problem, not how I behave or my, you know. And when it comes to my model, I feel like I base my model kind of sort of off of things of myself as well. So I felt like there was some kind of like a totem to have like a connection to my model. like her little mole, I have that, like that mole right in between my boobies. I have that mole. That's my mole. And so like, and I always make sure that artists draw it, because like to me, again, she's still kind of like a piece of me. And I didn't really say, hey, I want to look like a little teenage anime girl. You know, that wasn't my thing, to try to fool people and make them think that I'm younger than I am. And I won't ever say my age, just because I'm not comfortable saying my age in general. But you know, but I always tell people, yeah, I'm in my late 30s. Like it's that's what it is.
Yeah.
I definitely felt the need to be transparent about it, especially as a male YouTuber. And especially like the ages of people who try to interact with me or watch my streams, or even like try to get even closer than that, because I need you to know that I am 34 before you is 21 wants to do anything or say anything or watch me, because I don't want a situation where you feel like I've deceived you in some way. Like, I recognize that power dynamic is there. I recognize that discomfort is there. That discomfort is there for me too. Like, that's why I've gradually moved away from working with people who are under a certain age. I'm not saying I wouldn't collab or wouldn't work with them. I'm just feeling that I'm more comfortable working with people who are a bit more established in their life and maybe a little bit more experienced.
Yeah, but like once you're over 30, you're over 30 and that's it. You don't have to tell them 34. You're like, I'm over 30 and that's it.
It's in my tags.
You're old now.
I got 30 something down there. I don't know, 34.
30? Yeah, exactly. It's like, 30. You're already over. You're on the, I call it, you're on the party boat. Not the party bus, the party boat.
It's in my Discord bio. It's everywhere. I need you to know that I am over 30 before you
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how I am with. That's why I'm so vocal. That's why I'm so vocal about my age, and I repeat it constantly that I am in my 40s. I am in my 40s, because a lot of people who try to flirt with me are
much younger.
Yeah, they're like half my age, and I'm like, I can be your mother. Like, I could legit have given birth to you, and that's just a little weird for me.
They don't care. Like, they don't care.
Yeah. Also, like something that I saw once on Twitter, and this isn't someone who is related to anyone here, so I don't mind like talking about it. But she was like, they were talking about like something happened, and it was they'd had a falling out, right? Like her and like her poly partner and his partner, and they were talking about how, you know, like I feel threatened by an older man, and they were like 24 and he was 28. So like that power dynamic can still exist, and even if it doesn't necessarily exist, it can be said to exist, and you have no defense against that, because you can't prove that it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that with being lewd tubing, with being performers, we need to protect ourselves and be strategic about who we work with, because, you know, the internet hate machine is a real thing, and you've got to make sure that you are defending yourself against all possibilities of how someone might want to harm you if they decide to turn on you. So yeah,
people make up all kinds of headcanon when they don't get what they want from you, and you gotta be careful.
That's crazy.
And like for me with aging, this is a separate point now. Like I've got quite severe chronic fatigue syndrome, along with fibromyalgia and a bunch of like other a cornucopia of various fuckery, and I am like 90 to 95% bedbound. I stream from my bed. I do everything from bed. And for me, I started getting sick when I was 18. So it's been my whole adult life. And I feel like I've missed out on so much that I wanted to do and I expected to be able to do. And I expected to have a very different body because I was very sporty when I was younger. And, you know, obviously when you live in bed for like 15 years, you start creeping up on yourself from behind and around, you know, you expand. And I've been socialized that having bodies my size have very specific non-flattering social connotations, and that you're not worthy of love or desire, and that you shouldn't be able to seek those things. So I am quite a sexual person, quite a playful person. I'm quite gregarious and outgoing. So being able to pour myself into this body that I find makes me feel attractive and sort of socially acceptable is helping me to be my true self. Because like what you get on the internet, that is who I am. I don't put on a persona or a character. So I think that it's not necessarily coping with aging, because I'm not hung up on the fact that I'm 36. I'm hung up on how much I've missed because of circumstances beyond my control. And this has been a very helpful tool to help me get some of that back, because I never thought I was going to be able to.
I feel like I'm in the same spot. I wish I started this earlier. Like, I
Yeah.
wish I started before I was 32. Or 33,
Yeah.
the hell old I was at then, because I have basically taken this model and taken a photograph of myself at 27, essentially. Like, I've kind of frozen myself there. Like, the picture was with me in Japan at the age of 27. That became my VTuber model. Like, I don't want to be 27 again. Maybe.
Yeah.
27 I'll take 27.
You get a flat tummy. But, but, like, no, like, this is because I go to work. I'm a manager at a white-collar company. I manage a lot of money. This is me not being that, not doing that, being an anime boy internet, and I wish I could have done it earlier. And this is like my way of getting away from that for a hot minute and being creative and exploring things I didn't get to do, because I've been working in white-collar settings my entire life. I don't get to make thumbnails. I don't get to record audios. I don't get to, like, do that fun stuff,
Yeah.
Jack off for a bunch of strangers.
Jerk off for my
That's the fun part of the job.
Yeah.
But I think it's great how VTubing has helped a lot of people who feel that they don't want to be seen for whatever reason, or who feel like they are they want to be something different, to experience the world differently. And I'm so glad that we have this tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it feels like VTubing is a young person's industry.
Yeah.
I think a lot of streamers are like between 18 to 24. A lot of people trying this out are between 18 to 24. A lot of viewers are between 18 and 24. But
maybe it's to do with the aspirational aspect as well, because when we were coming up, like, being an influencer or a YouTuber wasn't really a thing. Whereas people now are growing up and realizing that you can have a career on the internet. Whereas our generation didn't really have that, because we got internet in like 95 or whatever the case was.
Yeah, I wasn't on the internet until I was 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in
actually,
AOL,
I'm 12, so it wasn't
AOL dial-up days.
And
Well, yeah, no, I was going to say the internet is a very different place now than it was even when we were teenagers,
Yeah.
Very different.
true.
Windows doesn't do that whole boom.
Also, being a VTuber is like expensive. Like, like, it's like teenagers. I would say probably most teenagers can't really afford a VTubing, a model, unless somebody is like fronting it for them, or unless they have like a part-time job and they're saving for it, to do it. Like, I would think that people, definitely in like their late teens after they graduate, high school and stuff can for sure. But like, it's like, I don't get the whole mindset that you have to be like in your early 20s to be like a VTuber, like, or in just in your 20s. Like, I just don't understand that mindset. Like, okay, so are we all supposed to get off the internet now? Like, after 30? Like, why are there minors on Twitter? Get them off of there,
Yeah.
I've never seen a minor have a good take on Twitter. I'm sorry.
No.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
no, get them off of there.
I will say the one time that I do kind of feel my age is when I see people in their early to mid 20s, like, you know, like having beef or something, or
Oh God, yeah.
you know, talking about where it's like, okay, this is very much a sign of your immaturity, and I don't necessarily mean that as a judgment, but like, I think to myself, wow, this could be handled so easily, like between two mature adults, you know.
Yeah, it's like,
but you know,
there's a
you're
gap in
21,
your-
so this is you're gonna do this online, okay?
yeah, there's a gap in your lived experience and like your conflict resolution that like makes you want to broadcast this rather than talk about it.
Yeah, that's a maturity level, and usually they do it out of spite anyway.
Yeah.
And
To try to
also,
ruin their
like,
livelihood. That's a personal thing. That speaks to their character, not really about their maturity level either. I don't think, because that's just them trying to like, oh, let me get this person canceled. You
yeah,
know?
but also, you know, we grew up without the internet largely, you know, because you had to pay by the minute because you used your phone line.
Yes.
And I think it's much like Dreadful Person. I think it was Mike Tyson. He is a dreadful person. Said like people have grown up without getting punched in the face for their actions, and I think we're the last generation where, you know, we didn't have access to people across the world until we were already fairly mature. So if we had a fight with someone, it was usually someone close by who knew where we lived or knew our parents. There were consequences that could come to our door, and I think that there's a big divide between people who can beef with people in complete anonymity versus people who didn't have that experience in their formative years.
Yeah, that's why it's the Wild West on the internet. It's crazy the things that people say to each other, and it's because they're like behind a freaking like fake name, and it's always those accounts that don't have a picture or just like an anime picture of Gojo who are like acting like assholes on Twitter, you know, being mean to everyone. It's like, fuck off, Gojo. And I'm sorry.
Why gotta do Gojo like that?
Because it's always Gojo or somebody from. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I take it back. Gojo usually not as much. It's usually always somebody from Naruto, and usually it's always an Uchiha. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong. Fucking Uchihas.
Gojo out here catching strays while Uchiha's doing
Yeah.
all
Okay,
nonsense.
well, I play too much Fortnite, and like Gojo's the sweatiest skin in the game right now. I'm sorry. I hate him right now. I'm like, Gojo is always the one that kills me. I'm like, fucking Gojo, man.
So I do want to get to the sex work aspect of things, so I'm going to save that for the sort of towards the ending of things, but I did have a sort of bridge to get there, which is about the term hag itself. So the question is, because it's become a meme in the VTubing space. Like every VTuber, including all the big ones, are making like these posts about, hey guys, what's a hag? Or guys, am I hag aged? Like things like that. So I guess my question to y'all is, can the term hag be salvaged or reclaimed? Or does it create an air of permissibility by letting others use it?
I mean, I've got kind of a different experience because I was calling myself a hag on my Discord when people came in and they were like, "Oh, I'm new here, you know, I don't know what to do," and I was like, "Okay, everyone's nice, but be careful of me because I'm a sea hag and I'm super scary and mean." And it was a way to put people at their ease, but also a way to kind of have that persona in the wings because, you know, there were thirst voids that would make it through our application process, and I would have to put on the dom pants and deal with them. And people used to refer to that as sea hagging, which which became very positive. So my experience has been kind of different, I think.
It was kind of to like say like, you should not fuck with me, essentially. Like
Exactly.
Take on this.
I'm nice, but don't push it.
My take on this is this: if you want to call yourself a hag personally, that's your choice, okay? And like I feel like that's perfectly fine. If you want to refer to yourself as hag because you're comfortable with that term, instead of MILF, instead of cougar, whatever, you want to call yourself hag, and it's kind of funny, you know, if you say it for yourself. But I think it also has to do with like how some people will use the word, like, I'm just going to say, because if women want to reclaim, older women want to reclaim the word hag as being like a positive thing for themselves, that's fine. But I feel like it has a lot to do also with, like, me, I'm a plus size person, and sometimes I'll say something like, oh, I'm, I'll say, oh yeah, well, I'm too fat to wear something like that, right? And instantly somebody says, no, you're not fat, you're beautiful. Okay, well then in my mind, that makes me think that you don't find fat people beautiful, right?
Or better still, you're fine.
Or yeah, but again, it's if I'm saying, oh, I'm fat because I'm talking about my body size, and your instant reply is, oh no, you're not fat, you're beautiful. Well, then automatically to me that tells me how you think of fat people. Like to in your mind, the word fat means ugly. In your mind, fat is a negative thing. Well, I'm just talking about my body mass. I'm not saying I'm ugly, I can't wear that. I'm saying
those are two separate things.
Those are two separate things. And I feel like if people are like, if somebody says, oh, I'm hag age, and somebody is like, oh, but you're so hot, it's like, okay, well then, do you not find older women to you automatically have to be ugly? Like that. I feel like that's how I feel about the word hag. So if you want to use it on yourself as an older woman, that's fine. But I know that that's another word that can be used as an insult instead. No different than the word fat. Like people sometimes use the word fat as an insult. They're going to use hag as an insult as well. If women who are older want to use it on themselves, that's fine. If they want to let people in their community call them a hag, and because they're comfortable with that term, that's fine as well. What I don't like is the fact that people think that they can call every older woman a hag. Correct. That's my issue with it. That's my issue with it. Because reclaiming the word fat was something that fat people did, with the whole body positive movement. I'm reclaiming that word. It doesn't mean ugly. It means just, my body mass. And if people want to reclaim the word hag instead of making it an insult, making it something that they just want to define themselves as, that's perfectly fine. That's their choice. But then that doesn't mean that you go around calling everybody a fucking hag if they're over 30. That's bullshit. Sorry.
Exactly.
I went into a rant. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm probably gonna clip that later.
Sorry.
As like bottom, like it's like
Yeah.
bottom has a real meaning to it, and then suddenly you're calling, like all these VTubers are calling everybody each other like you're a bottom, you're a bottom, you're a bottom. It's like
I hate that.
you're taking this thing that like has an actual meaning and like applying it to everything. Like,
and why is that negative too? Why do they say it as an insult?
Yes.
It's not okay. You can't be a top if there's no bottom, motherfucker. You can't. If there's bottom, there's two tops that are fighting for somebody to take the bottom. One of those tops is going to end up being a bottom. So again, that's not an insult, but people like to use it as an insult, and that's the thing.
Or you're going to have to fuck on your side, and that's really uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. You're going to have to go fuck yourself.
Let's go look at fucking Beyblade. Two tops just battling.
It's gonna be like two rhinos hitting each other. See who wins. Oh, gosh.
But it's in groups and out groups, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Like I can call myself fat, but I don't necessarily want you calling me fat.
Right.
Because I don't know the connotations that you have with that word.
Right. Well, I once, I literally had someone once say to me, I had described myself as fat. Well, actually, what I had done was I was talking about an event that was happening in the area that I was going to be a part of, and I called it a fat fashion swap because that's what it was. It was a bunch of fat people like swapping clothes, and that's what it was named, and that's what I called it. And because I've always been comfortable. I've been comfortable with the word fat for a long time. I reclaimed it a while ago, but the person I was speaking to literally said, "I don't see you that way," and I'm like, "But I am though. Like, if you don't see me as
do you have eyes?"
Yeah, he's like, but I am. And so it's like, what you're saying is you don't see me as all the negative connotations that go with that. Like, great, thanks. But you also don't see my lived experience as a fat person because it is different from yours.
Right, right.
So it's like, you can't say, I don't see you like that if that is a term that someone is claiming for themselves, But you also
But I
can't
don't
claim
see
that
you like
terms like
what?
that for other people. Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I don't see you like what was the mindset then? That's my question. Like,
Mhm.
what was the mindset that I don't see you as that? What was that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a backhanded compliment right there.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's the problem with all of this. It's like even when you're trying to be complimentary about it, it's backhanded. And like you can't ever like assume that everyone's going to take it positively, because some people do not feel the same way about being older, being unmarried, being divorced even. Like I've banned people from my chat from calling like my community like older women, because it's like I have a community of people who are in their 30s, have various life experiences, and don't need to be reminded of that stuff, that they're undesirable or like considered undesirable by society, or like all the negative connotations with being of that age, because that's not why we're here. That's not why you're like watching a VTuber right now, you know?
Or
And
that
to
they're
have
being
it-
defined by their age right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe they just want to break from that.
Yeah. And it ticks me off, because it's like all these big VTubers. I'm talking like, you know, big indies. I'm talking like big corporate VTubers like, oh, Chad and Maya Hagen, like, this girl's like 23. Like, shut
Yeah.
up.
That makes you just want compliments. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't say on behalf of everyone that like, oh, there's nothing wrong with that word, or you're being too sensitive. And it's like, if you don't, again, like if you're fine with it, that's great, but you don't get to reclaim words on behalf of everyone else in that group, you know, especially if you're not even in that group. If you're 23 and asking your chat like, oh, my hag, it's like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not gonna start naming names, because that.
No. That'll get you Google Docs.
No,
Be a troublemaker. Do it. Whisper it in our ears afterwards. It's fine. Chat doesn't need to hear it.
I mean, I'll put it. I'll say it. Like fucking Bowser Whale does this all the time. Like,
Oh
He
no!
does.
Oh! Don't get me started on that one with her with the blueberry thing too.
Oh
I
my
went
God.
insane.
yes.
I was
Song they
very
sang. No,
that was
it wasn't-
very distasteful.
And then because they were like, oh, it was just a blueberry. But what about the song though? I would have cared if it was just a model. What about the song they sang too? I was like, come on now. And so I said something about that, and everybody's like, well, if you're fat, you're fat, and they just started like being disgusting about it, and I'm like, oh my God. You just show me how much you hate fat people. Just it's fine. You want to hate if you want to hate fat people, fine, that's your problem. But like, don't make it everybody else's problem if that's your prejudice. Oh my gosh, you're gonna like they did it. Just admit that they did it. Don't try to defend them. Just it's fine. They don't have to like fat people. You know?
There's an author called Terry Pratchett, who's my favorite author of all time, who made a good point about this kind of humor, where if you're sort of punching up at the people who are in power, that is satire. But if you're punching downwards, particularly to people that are hurting, that's bullying. And she was punching down with that, and she knew it, because she is a successful, probably quite wealthy, very sort of attractive, thin young woman, and she has no idea of the experience of being older or obese, and the struggles that come with it, and the struggle of dealing with the perceptions of other people that come with it. And she's using that for laughs. Like, it's very distasteful. She wouldn't put on blackface and do that same thing, right? Put on a minstrel show.
Listen, we don't know.
I mean,
we don't know.
Yeah.
And like, listen, this is not viewers. This is not to say that I hate Bow or anything like that. This is just acknowledging that this is what it looks like at the large VTuber scale, what it looks like at the corporate scale, what it looks like at the big indie scale. Like, this is what it looks like. This is how it manifests, and it doesn't mean that this person is intentionally trying to be like insulting or demeaning or hurtful, but that's how it comes across. And like, that's why I want us to talk about this, because I need people to realize just because you see big VTubers doing it doesn't mean that it's a good thing to do. You know?
Yeah, you can be problematic without being a terrible person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two things can be true.
Yeah, this is just a critique. This is not hating on Bao.
No, it's
But
just
if you
it
want
just
to, that's your right.
shows. Yeah, it just shows the level of maturity they have.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, it wasn't their word to try to claim or try to like make okay anyway. They're in their early 20s. Like, I'm a hag. Well, hag is it okay? Like, if you're gonna say that it's okay to call everybody over 30 hags, you don't have that right to do so. Like, you don't
Yeah,
have
you're in
that
the out group.
authority to say that. Like, yeah.
And male
like,
VTubers, just delete the word from your vocabulary. Just
Yeah.
don't ever say it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Get it there.
don't even. Don't start.
Yeah.
All right. But moving on from that, because the depths generally goes for about 2 hours, y'all. So if you're in chat, by the way, if you have any sort of questions for us, make sure you get them in now. But I did want to talk specifically now about sex work, the juicy stuff, so to speak.
Oh,
So we're
juicy, like my.
So this is kind of a two-part question, and feel free to just take your time with it. But it's like, number one, when did you start sex work? That's either online or IRL. You don't have to obviously go into too many details. And the second part of that question is, would you consider yourself a late bloomer in terms of exploring your sexuality via lewd content, or is this a natural progression for the way that you've always been?
Who's going first?
I love how we all wait for each other.
I started doing sex work literally like 2 months ago when I got verified on Fansly. Like, this is very, very new to me. I'm very new to the industry. And so, in that regard, I don't have a lot of experience. But, like, as to the other part of your question, for me, I kind of feel like it's both. Because I feel like this has been a way for me to explore my sexuality, in the sense that I feel like I'm a late bloomer, but I feel like I'm a late bloomer because of the way I grew up. I grew up in a very religious environment, and I had that mindset for well into my 20s, but I also feel like that all that like shame came from I think I held on to it for so long because I feel like my sexuality is a strong part of me, and I was sort of like resisting it for a long time. And so this, doing sex work is sort of, it's sort of a culmination of the work that I've been doing to sort of unlearn all that shame and sort of let it go. And this work I've been doing for the past couple of years. And so, yeah, I think in some ways I was a late bloomer because of the way I grew up. But I do think this is something, my sexuality and sensuality is something that's kind of always been a part of me for as long as I can remember. And this is just sort of my way to start expressing it, more fully and in a more positive way.
That's beautiful.
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
There is a lot to unlearn, and like we've always had the position here on the depths that like VTubing, especially tubing, is a great way to explore kink, a safe way to explore your sexuality, and it's a safe way to sort of like go beyond what you are comfortable with and experiment. So it's really one of the best mediums out there.
Well, for me,
What was the question? I've been sidetracked by Morgana's question in chat because it's a really good one.
It's a good one. We'll get to it though. The question was, when did you start sex work, and is this sort of like a natural progression for you, or something that you're late blooming into, essentially?
Well, I decided personally to be a sexologist when I was like, I think 11. This wasn't for horny reasons. This was because human sexuality, and relationships were always fascinating to me. And so I structured my education around that goal. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do a master's degree and get certified. So, that never came to be. But I've always pursued either sort of hobbies or interests or employment in and around sex work and that kind of Not environment, subject, maybe. And I think that VTubing is just me taking that final step out to be myself, as I said earlier.
Kiwi, you go, and I'll go last.
Okay. I haven't officially started any kind of sex work yet. I'm still exploring options for it, but I feel like it's with my past relationships, I haven't really ever been allowed to explore my sexuality so much. So doing it now, yeah, I do feel a little bit like a late bloomer, but also it feels better to do it now. Learn what I like, what I don't. So that's that.
How has it been so far, though? Like, are you feeling that you're getting like sort of the validation that you're hoping to see?
Yes, and more so, it feels like it's empowering me as a person. Like, I have the power in this. Like, I control it.
Turning yourself from a sexual object to a sexual subject.
Yes.
I think that all of us kind of grew up during a time when, sex positivity wasn't a thing. It just like it's a little bit more like nowadays. Not so stigmatized as it used to be while we were growing up. So nowadays, girls grow up and they end up, joining Fansly or OnlyFans and stuff once they become, legal age, right? Well, back in those times, unless you went to become like an actual porn star, you didn't really have access to do that. So I think that's really kind of where I think now like sex positivity is a lot better now for people to get into that. So I could see where there'd be like a lot of late bloomers in terms of millennials in finding like what they like sexually, because when we were growing up, it was all kind of about how are we going to pleasure the boys that want us, versus what do we want, and I think that's a big change now in terms of sexual things. I actually started sex work in my late teens myself. I started sex work when I had just turned 18 years old. I was a online findommy. That's how I paid my way through college, actually. I was an online findom, not a sugar baby, but an actual findom at 18 years old. I do suffer from hypersexuality, so that's always been part of my life. I'm naturally very, very sex positive person. To the cringy, people around me found it very cringe growing up because of that reason, right? Like I was always like slut shamed and stuff because of that. Like I was the school whore, or the school slut. I didn't get paid for it when I was in school, so like I was the school slut basically. And so but that was something that that was just me, and I was just myself. And then when I got a little bit older, I found my partner, who I've been in a relationship with for now 20 years, and so I've been, partner with him for the longest time now, and that sexual, urge to do those things never really left. Like they never really went away. I was like, that fin dom. You could take the fin out of you could take the dom out of the fin, but you can't take the fin out of the dom. So I was like, it's always gonna stay there. So I kind of joked. I was like, that's just me. So I was flirting with the idea of doing it from the get-go, but I just didn't like. I was like, no, I don't know how I feel about it. It's a whole new medium, not what I'm used to doing. And he was very supportive about it and was like, yeah, you should do it. Go, I'm like, I'm old now. He's like, people like MILFs now, so just like go for it. Go, why not? And so he was very supportive about it. So,
it's really funny. I actually used the opposite to get out of trouble when I had done something, because I was very sporty, but I've always been quite like broad. But I was very plain in school, like I wore the sensible shoes and, the hair clipped at the base of my neck. I was the head librarian, and I was a complete nerd. And there was a guy, I had a boyfriend that I did some sexual exploring with, who went and blabbed to everybody what had happened. And, back then slut shaming was cool. So it would have ruined me. And I was like, come on, like, you know me, I'm like the nerd. I wouldn't go to like third base with you, vaguely popular guy that I dated the previous year. Like, do you really think I'd do those things? And they were like, yeah, I suppose you wouldn't. And I totally had
in South Africa third wicket. Sorry.
It's like, come on, do you really think I would have given that guy head on a pool table? Like, and they're like, no, that's true, actually. And I totally had. But growing up in South Africa, there was actually a lot of sex education and conversation around sex because of the AIDS crisis. At its worst, the infection rates were around 30% of the population. And so we had to be educated about sex. And, you know, there were condoms available, you know, because we have a huge percentage of the population that's in poverty. You know, there were government issued condoms that were available in public buildings like libraries, hospitals, doctor's office. They were just free. There was a 40-foot condom with the South African flag on it on the side of our our town hall kind of administrative center. You know, we had the whole slogan, be wise, condomize kind of thing. And, you know, there were a lot of myths that would come from, you know, being ignorant due to, you know, being impoverished, being preached to by evangelical Christians, often from America. I'm really sorry, guys, but that's true.
No, they go to Africa.
And the Catholic Church, and, you know, the teachings of the Sangoma, who is the traditional healer, often called a witch doctor, you know, in plain English, the Sangoma, you know, and they have, you know, tribal remedies. And when I say tribal, I don't mean like I don't mean that as like patriarchal. I mean they are literal tribes. They're like, you know, Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana, etc., like literal tribal remedies. And some of them would be you know, if you gave birth to an albino baby, you know, sometimes people, the Sangoma would say, well, you know, that child is cursed, so you need to boil it and eat it, and then people would do that. You know, it's there were myths about, you know, like if you had sex with a virgin, it would cure you if you had AIDS, and that led to a whole ton of crimes, terrible crimes.
From this one,
and so education was always a really big thing in South Africa. So it's very funny that like the conservatism was still there, but the situations and how they were handled were very different.
Well, it was born of a crisis because you had such a high infection rate and no cure, and PrEP wasn't available yet, and it quite literally necessitated like breaking down conservative barriers around sex and such, because what else were you going to do?
Absolutely.
So we do have a couple of questions in chat, and I will get to them, but I did want to ask one question related to sort of late blooming in age, and that is, do you think there's a time limit or sunset where you'll have to end doing sex work?
No, man. I'll be a sexy granny.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I think there is for me.
Yeah?
I think I'm on borrowed time. I think like once I hit my late 30s, I think it's over, honestly.
In what sense? Because you would choose to not do it, or you just think you won't have appeal anymore? Or like, what?
I think I won't have
what makes you think that?
I don't think I'd have both, not having the appeal, but also like the community and the audience that I stream to. I just don't think it's gonna be there when I'm like in my later 30s, in like 2,
I don't think
3,
that's
4
true.
years.
Yeah, I
think
also
that's true.
disagree.
I disagree.
I think that men often get more
Stronger.
sexually appealing with age,
They do.
especially if they behave like decent people.
Oh yeah.
I think that your appeal is going to grow.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
the same thing.
Well, and especially since you've said yourself that your audience skews older. Your audience is mostly women in their 30s plus. So I think that yeah, I think that your appeal will only grow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know.
And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Like, I
No,
legit
I
think
know,
that
I
your
know
appeal
it's,
is
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it's genuine.
No, I
know it's
agree.
genuine.
It's
I just
true.
like I don't think there's a track record. Like it's like very much like trailblazing something new.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, yeah.
Said
Well, I
that
mean,
think
you've
the
blazed
same
trails
thing.
before. Look at this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There.
I've said the same thing though. I said that I feel like I'm also on borrowed time. Like
Great.
I've openly said that too. I actually told my partner, I was like, well, I'm just gonna do this as long as I can do this, but we're on borrowed time. So, who knows if I've got another maybe 4 years at most, maybe left.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at too, Mummy.
That's kind of what I said. I was like,
Mhm.
I probably after that, nobody's gonna want to watch me. I'm not gonna have sex appeal.
But
I feel like that's as far as I can ride it. And then, as I was like, so I got to do what I can do now, and just try to see how I can grow it. And then after that, I guess
Yeah, and it's like not entirely negative because it motivates me too. It's like, all right, I got borrowed time. I gotta make the most
Yeah.
of it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that, like, as we've said before, like, because it's VTubing, you can create whatever persona you want, and that, like, I understand like the ethics of being honest about your age, but like, as we've said, there's a lot of negative connotations about age. But if your VTuber like doesn't quote unquote look a certain age, or if you aren't acting as acting your age the way people perceive your age, like, then I don't think your age should necessarily hold you back or keep you from broader appeal, over a certain age.
Or make you stop,
Yeah.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me,
I mean, if you're still successful, like, yeah, why stop?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that-
why stop 'cause
obviously,
of a-
that's obviously if the success is there, of course, don't stop. But
Yeah.
it's hard to envision that success being there later on.
I'll stop when I break a hip.
Mm.
Well,
for me,
I love that, Kiwi.
for me, my conditions are going to severely limit my lifespan. My the general life expectancy for someone with my conditions is about 48 to maximum of 55, and I'm 36. So I am increasingly aware that, like, I've got a finite amount of time, and I should do what I want in the time I have, because there's no do-overs, right?
Mhm.
So, like, yeah, I will continue to do this if I have the desire, until I desire to stop, no matter how old I am.
Mhm.
And if I'm an old woman, I'll be like, yes, I'll suck your dick, Sonny.
Oh my god.
Popping into
Come
the
at
MC.
me, fuck bag. Like,
Okay, back to the pub with you.
I'm sorry. I'll leave now. I'll see
Here's a
myself
sock.
out.
You have
Goodbye.
your freedom now. Goodbye. Yeah. So I mean, like, actually, on that point, if we all have like wrapped up the that question, that actually dovetails pretty nicely into the question that Tiefling Morgana has asked, which is not related to age at all, but is related more to your persona. So Tiefling Morgana asks, so when it comes to VTubing, how do you feel about people pretending to be the opposite gender? For example, a male pretending to be a female for me. And what advice would you give, if any? So I'm gonna tell you off the bat, Tiefling Morgana, get your bag and do what you like.
Yeah.
And as long
If
as
it
you're
feels good, do
genuine,
it.
people will fuck with it. Like,
Mhm.
I can't always promise it'll be like, it'll take off or you'll get the same advantages that femme presenting people have. Doesn't mean there aren't people who haven't been successful with it. And frankly,
Look at Joel, the porcelain maid.
Oh yeah, he's actually the one who inspired me to start VTubing.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Mm.
Exactly. There are popular
In
VTubers out there that gender bender models, or just have a femme model and are masculine and like don't need a voice changer, don't need any of that. Like, they can just be themselves. Because at the end of the day, it's how entertaining are you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think also with VTubing, we can be our ideal forms, and who am I to dictate what that is for you?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think if your concern is misrepresenting women, I think that's really only a problem if you are putting women into a little box. And I think that's the whole point of a big point of this conversation here is like we all come in different personalities, interests, like we're all individual human beings. So like if your point, as long as your point isn't to be misogynist or make fun of women, and it's just your avatar and your persona, like I don't think that that's a danger.
It's being genuine.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a good point that they've also said here. They said, especially with my character being a sex worker canonically. Yes. I actually have seen this. I've seen this where like a masculine person will have female OCs and will be like, "This is my OC, like Judith, and she is a slut, and she takes so many cocks, and etc. etc. etc." I'm not gonna lie, that makes me a little uncomfortable. Like, yeah. So, yes, you have to recognize that people need to have agency, and that you cannot use the femme form as a vehicle for fantasies, essentially. If you want to use it to express yourself, that's something different than sort of like putting...
You just instead of just creating a little puppet that you can be like, she's a slut. Look, exactly. Let's go and fuck this one, everybody. Kind of.
And I'm downright certain this is not what you do, Tiefling Melissa. Morgana. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to... Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, to be fair, if they're masculine and use a femme presenting like kind of avatar for VR work or whatever that they're doing and make like sexual content that way, in general, to me, VR is just fantasy anyway. I don't really see it as being like the way that some of us do like traditional sex work. That like going into the VR world to me is just fun fantasy. People go in there to lose themselves and escape, right? So like if they're going in there to have a fantasy of getting gangbanged by like 20 dudes and or whatever, and that's just their character's persona at the time, then if they want to be a slut that takes 20 dudes, then that to me that doesn't bother me, even if
but then you're being the thing that's again, still authentic.
But that's the that's the thing, that they're just at that time, that is who they are, that is who they're presenting themselves to be. So that doesn't bother me. I'm not like, oh my god, you're slut shaming women. No, I don't that doesn't bother me that people do that. I think what would bother me more is like if somebody was like on Twitch or whatever and just being like, oh, I'm just this cute bimbo, when like and just like that would bother me, versus somebody going into VR and just living out their sexual fantasies and dreams any way they could and the only way they can do that is through VR. Then I mean, I'm all for sexual exploration in any way that you can find it, as long as it's healthy, so if that's a healthy outlet for you to pretend to be a woman and go into VR and just enjoy yourself with whatever you enjoy yourself with, then go for it. Like live your truth, You're
so right though, because when you're doing that, you are inhabiting that female character, you are having that experience, and that makes it authentic. The reference I think that Atra was making, and certainly the one that I was making, is making an OC that is separate from yourself in order to control her and make her do things.
I think it is people going into VR, because I see people doing that all the time on Fansly, and I'm like, okay, whatever floats your boat,
It's actually really complicated, because then what happens when you have like race to it, for example?
Right.
What if you're like pretending to be an Asian woman, for example, and like getting into that fetishization of
I think there's some that are allowed and others that are not.
It's actually a very complicated answer. It's a complicated answer, but the reality is there are many ways to be respectful and to express yourself in a way that's responsible.
For sure.
And it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the episode about people having kinks, about things like aspects of people that they can't control, like their age or their race, and that you can explore it in a healthy way, but you have to be aware that you have that kink and think about why you have that kink and what it is you are actually getting from it.
And then what is the and then in comes the and then here comes the kicker. What is the difference between a kink and a preference? You know? Like then in comes that too, because like some people don't fetishize, you know, like I'm just gonna bring up like you know, like let's pretend like there's an interracial couple. The man prefers dating women who are a different race than him, you know. That doesn't mean he's fetishizing. That's just his preference.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. Like, there's a big difference between fetishizing something and just having a preference as to what you prefer. Like, fetishize.
I think we were talking about people fetishizing it includes objectification, where it's like you're not interested in the person as a person; they are just your fetish. Whereas a preference, it's like this is, you know, this is my type, but there's still an interest in the person as a person.
Right.
It's like my type is dad bods, but I won't refuse to date someone with a six-pack. Just because they have a six-pack.
Right, exactly. You can have a preference, but that's not, you know, you're not fetishizing like that. You only want them for their body, you know?
Right. So I will combine this question in chat from EFTV and Isakarma. So EPTV and Issa says essentially, how do you prioritize your health and mental health in LootTubing, and how do you cope with sexual burnout? So we're all very busy people. We are of a certain age. This can be a grind sometimes, especially when you have a pressure to fulfill an algorithm or to sort of keep your momentum up. How do you deal with sexual burnout is the question, essentially.
I will say I have yet to experience that. Again, I've only been doing this a couple months. But as far as like mental health and just burnout in general, I think the fact that I mean, I wanted to say that, like, because I am 40 years old, like, this is something I've sort of learned to do over the years. But I'm realizing now that that's not true, because I'm actually currently recovering from autistic burnout. Because I didn't realize until just a few years ago that I was autistic. I didn't know autistic burnout was a thing. And so that is something I'm currently dealing with. But I think also for me, I feel, because I have a separate full-time job that pays my bills and one that I really enjoy doing, I don't feel a need to grind so hard at like VTubing and sex work just at the moment, because it's not imperative to pay my bills. Right now it's just something I'm kind of, you know, exploring. And if it does become a full-time gig, you know, that is maintainable, it's sustainable for like my mental health, great. But I'm not going to sacrifice my mental health for it, you know. And so for me at the moment, I'm just sort of feeling it out and like trying to find what works for me.
I'm in the same boat, because I do work full time, and my full time job has me starting at 6 a.m. Like Monday, I have a 2-hour drive, and I'm supposed to be there at 6 a.m. So
Jesus,
yeah,
that should be illegal. You invented 4 a.m. What the fuck?
I don't know, but it's awful. But I've been doing this for like 20 years, so I'm used to it. So that's why I don't stream at all during the week. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays are my stream days. Because then I take, when I get home from work, it's just me time all the time. Just to kind of recover from work burnout. Because I am the division manager for my area. So I take care of, I have a lot of responsibilities. I manage 2 people who are under the age of 25. And then, like, streaming for me is just fun. It's a hobby. It's something that I do to escape that part of my life, to forget about for a while and just kind of have fun. so I don't really feel like I have burnout. So I kind of just make sure to make time for me. Really.
I feel this question because I stream lewd content once a week minimum. And streaming that can be very exhausting because of what I do, which is jorking it for 2 hours. But I am also hypersexual, so I tend to just always kind of be in the mood. But it does manifest in other ways, because, like, you know, I can find the spoons to stream. I can sometimes not find the spoons to record something, or to, like, you know, even tweet something sexy. I get it. It really comes down to being self-aware and taking your breaks if necessary. I find it hard to take breaks, because I know consistency is very key to sort of streaming, to growing, but it's sort of, I don't know, like it really is like finding the time for yourself too is really the big one, because if you take all your time and shove it into work and streaming, you're gonna feel it hurt yourself in other ways, whether it's your exercise, your sleep, or your like basic human needs. That's how it's manifested for me. Like I know I've denied myself those things, and like that's something that I'm personally working on, honestly. I did want to hear from Mummy about this, because I know Mummy streams very consistently on Fansly as well.
Yeah, I stream on Fansly a lot. Right now I'm in the middle of a Kumathon, actually. Which is,
yeah, she's coming right now. You guys just don't know.
No.
It's like Toyota-thon, but it's like...
after this, that's where I'm running, actually.
Exactly.
But so the thing is, that's like 30 days of me streaming every single day on Fansly for at least, like I said, at least 2 hours a day, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah, at least 2 hours a day, every day from it started like on Monday, and today's Friday. So I've been doing it since Monday, and it's going to be up until August 16th. So it's consistent. I'm hypersexual, so I'm good with it. I'm enjoying it. I have a good time doing it. But there have been times where if I've had like, before this, when I usually do Fanslys on Fridays and Saturdays, right? Friday nights, Saturday nights. Sometimes in the middle of the week, but depends. But mostly Friday and Saturday nights. If I've had a very hard Friday night, sometimes it's like the next day I'm like dead, and I'm like, I will skip Twitch streams because of that. I'll be like, I'm too tired to wake up and do a Twitch stream. You know, I have to save myself for Fansly tonight. So I always prioritize my Fansly.
I have to save myself for sex.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest here. The Fansly stream for me is more enjoyable than when I'm getting off of Twitch. I'm just saying.
No, it is.
I mean, it really is. Well, because for me too, I feel like a lot of the times on Twitch, I have to censor myself, you know. And even if I'm just chilling and vibing on Fansly, I'm just being myself. I'm just enjoying their company. They're enjoying my company. I feel like I get to be my most authentic self on Fansly, while on Twitch, sometimes I feel like I really seriously have to control myself of what I say, because I don't want to get banned. I don't want to offend somebody. I don't want to, you know, have somebody come
Don't want to
in
get twit longer.
Yeah, I don't want to be a problem for anybody either. So I just feel like when I'm on Fansly, I just enjoy myself a bit more on there. So, but at the same time, if I do need a day, I will take that day. I will, even if it's scheduled, I will say, like, if I'm feeling burnout, I'll be like, listen, I can't today, guys. I am tired. You know, I will be back next week. I take the days. If I need the days, I take the days. I hate taking the days. I'm a fucking workaholic. Yep. But and I work 8 to 5 every day. You know, Monday through Friday. I work all the time. But while I'm also at work, I'm sending out tweets, I'm replying to people. I work non-stop. Like, I never stop doing content creation. Like, I'm content creating all day long until, like, right before sleep is when that phone gets out of my hand. My partner has to pry that shit out of my hand sometimes. He's like, can you please put your phone down? I'm like, I'm answering DMs. So I'm because of the fact that I'm a workaholic, it's really hard for me to take a day, but sometimes your body just gives out. Your body just says
Mhm.
no, and you just
Does.
have to listen to it. So I do take the days when I need to. I beat my butt the next day about it. I'll whip myself about it later. I'm like, why did you do that? But yeah, no, I take the days. I take the days when I have to. But like,
I think that's.
yeah, I'm always horny, so so yeah.
Mood.
I think in general, that's my issue is that I feel bad, like, not doing the thing I clearly want to do, you know? Like, I really, like, I haven't started streaming on Fansly yet, but I do enjoy streaming on Twitch. I like it a lot, but sometimes it's like, as much as I want to do it, I also know I shouldn't, you know, for my mental health, because I need a break or I'm burnout, and it's very sort of confusing, actually. To me, it's like, I know I want to do this, and I know that I have fun doing this, but I also know, like now is not a good time for me, right? And it feels kind of guilty too, especially since this is something where there are other people involved, and I feel like I'm letting people down, and I don't like that feeling either, you know? But yeah,
Don't force yourself to do it. Don't force yourself to do it. That's the biggest. That's the biggest advice I could give you, because there's been times where I force myself to do it, and afterwards I dissociate for a good 2 hours because I feel gross and disgusting about it. You have to go
afterwards.
Yes, you feel dirty, and that's like the last thing you want to feel. That's the last thing you want people to know or feel like they forced you to do something. You will like I've gone and taken like a 3-hour bath before and just sat there just like disassociating. You have to make sure you go into that wanting to, willing to, and happy to do it. Other words, I tell you, that is the surefire way to plummet your mental health is by forcing yourself to do sex work. Like, do not force yourself. It has to be. You have to do it willingly.
That is fantastic advice. Yeah, there are mornings I wake up. Like this morning, I woke up and I was like, "Oh God, I did fancy last night, didn't I?" Because I just sore and tired and exhausted.
Baby, no.
I think with my sorry.
Go ahead,
no, you.
No, I was done.
Okay, go. I think with my conditions, there's positives and negatives. Like, the negatives are like, there is a lot that I want to do that I can't do because I'm not a workaholic, but I am very ambitious. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of stuff I want to do, and it can be extremely hard to deal with physically not being able to, being trapped inside an exhausted body that you like, that could potentially kill you if you push it too far, and you can't push through because you'll literally risk your life. And like, lewd tubing's fun, but it's not worth your health. But on the flip side of that, because I know I've got like 11 to 16 or maybe 17 years probably, it puts a lot of things in perspective, and I tolerate a lot less shit because I'm like, I've got 11 to 15 years yet. I really don't want to spend that dealing with this fuckboy in my DMs or, you know, whatever the case is. And
sir, I have 10 years at most. I am not replying to your thirst void DM.
Exactly. But seriously, like, if VTubing ever stops making me happy, I will stop doing it because I won't force myself to be in situations that don't make me happy or feel fulfilled in like the last decade and a half of my life. And I think that it's a mindset that has made me healthier and happier than I was previously, when it was just this long stretch that I didn't know what was going to happen, and I put up with way too much. Way more than I should have.
Yeah, that's how I've like in my 20s I put up with so much from other people and just let them take advantage of me. And now when I hit my 30s, I was like, I don't want this no more. Now I don't put up with nothing.
Yeah.
And I think again that has to do with our age as well, you know, just in general, because I find myself feeling that way as well. Like, there's a lot of shit that I don't put up with anymore, that I would definitely have when I was a lot younger, and that I definitely did when I was a lot younger, because it's like life's too short. My time's too valuable, and I'm gonna, like I was saying before, I want to protect my peace. So I'm not gonna do things that don't make me happy, and I'm not gonna do things that are, I don't want to do things that are gonna risk my mental health, because I just don't got time for that.
I think, you're more comfortable in your own skin and secure in who you are as a person at like 35 and older, I think.
So I do want to sort of bring us to a conclusion here. I did want to end on a question from Qbean. Qbean is, and I mean this in the most loving way possible, the oldest VTuber I know. If he's not 60 yet, he's approaching 60.
Good on you, Qbean. Holy fuck.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Q does a lot of art for like streamers and such, like free art. It's very, very sweet of him. But Q asks,
that's amazing.
just in general, is there life after 35 for streamers?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like I've come into my life now in my 40s than I had when I was in my 20s.
My mom told me the
Absolutely.
exact same thing.
Yeah, my mom did too. Yep, and I feel it.
I feel like I found
Honestly-
my joy after 35, so I'm being honest. I found like my joy when after 35. So it's like I feel like my life even before that was just kind of like a blur, and it's like I don't remember being like happy or enjoying myself really much, doing much,
It's a grind.
So like
It is.
So like after 35, like now I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy in my relationship. We've grown, we've matured. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I love being a VTuber. I love my sex life. I love doing, sex work. So I like after 35 is when I feel like my life actually really did start to be actually. Let's just say that. I feel like my life started after 35.
Yeah.
I think there's life as long as your life lasts. And you get the beautiful thing is that you get to define it. And even small things like I have a nose ring, like a little stud in my nose, and my mom wanted one her whole life, and she thinks that now she's 60 that she's too old. And I think that that's so sad that there is like there was a thing that she always wanted, and she could have it for herself anytime, but she's decided that because she's like 61 or whatever, that she's too old to have a nose stud. And
I just got my first tattoo, and I felt the same way.
Oh, they're amazing, right?
First tattoo. Yeah, I love it. Now I want a million more. I was like,
Me too.
too old to get my first tattoo? I was like, I'm already so old. Why did I wait so long? And I got it, and now I just want a million more. I totally get where your mom,
Can I say on the subject of tattoos, like, I'm very grateful that when I was in my 20s, I didn't have the money to get tattoos, because I think about the tattoos I wanted back then, and I'm like, oh god, I'm so glad. Because now I have tattoos I really love, but all the ones that I got when I was a lot younger, I'm actually in the process of covering up. Thankfully, they're very small. They're very small, thankfully, so they'll be easy to cover. But like, I think about, God, if I had the money and I had gotten these big pieces that I wanted, I would feel so. I would regret it so hard.
Yeah, I think I got my first
taste
tattoo
just
in
changed,
my late 20s.
Yeah, see, but yeah.
I got my eyeliner and eyebrows tattooed on. And
My aunt did that.
yeah, and I've got one on my ankle. But I want so many more, I just can't afford them.
I have 4.
And I want better eyeliner.
Yeah, no, I really find that I've actualized the balance that I really was looking for a long time by streaming YouTubing and doing this. And that's why, even if I'm not YouTubing, I'm probably going to do this for a while longer. Just stream on Twitch, Because when it comes to feeling attractive, like finding that balance, being creative, like building something for yourself rather than working in an office, it really is the most, like, I used to like live for the weekend. Now I live for every night. Like, what am I doing tonight?
Aw, yeah. See, that's beautiful. I love that.
It is beautiful.
That's gorgeous. I love that. See.
Mystique, you were saying?
Was I?
Maybe not.
She's like, wait, what?
That's gone.
I've said many things. You'll have to remind me.
No, of course. No, I think I'll actually sort of bring us to a conclusion here, so that we can sort of wrap up at the 2:30 mark. Yeah, this has been the Depths episode 35, live after 35. Completely coincidental that happened, but it worked really nicely for the episode. And I hope that if you've made it this far in the episode, you've gotten some insight into women who do sex work, femmes who do sex work after a certain age, why we might want to do this, speaking just as a person of that age, and why it matters to hear when we say like, hey, this is something that we like or don't like. And if you're a man, stop using the word hag.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or piss on your socks.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna give everybody here a chance to do some plugs. Tell
Don't
us
do
what
it.
you got going on.
Oh God, the chunk
Don't do
club.
it. Don't you call us hags. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But tell us what you got going on, where people can find you, and yeah,
Oh, not the
tell us a
chocolate.
little bit about what you want them to know, starting with Mummy.
Oh, okay. Hi. Hello. My name is Mrs. Mummy. I'm a variety YouTuber here on Twitch. You can follow me on Twitch. I do streams on the weekends. I have a D&D stream actually going on right now every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's one of the things I'm like most excited about that I'm currently doing, apart from my SW work that I do over on Fansly. And like I said on Fansly, I'm in the middle of a Kumathon, and next month on the 10th, I actually have my 2-year debut as Mrs. Mummy, and I think I'm gonna do a speed dating event, so I'm looking forward to that as well, which I'm gonna put a notice on about that. And I'm supposed to have merch coming out with Uwa Market, but I'm not supposed to talk about that. Anyway, yeah, that's what's coming up with me.
Not supposed to talk about it on this thing that will be
Not
on
supposed to talk
YouTube
about
and
it. It's a
Spotify.
secret. Oh no!
It's like Hagrid. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have
I shouldn't have said that. Oh no, I shouldn't have said that.
Oopsies.
They're gonna
Mummy.
cancel it. They're gonna be like, no. Sorry.
Mummy, thank you always for being your most authentic self. It's been an
Oh my
honor,
gosh,
as always, to
thank
have you on here,
Mm.
as always.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
you.
Ember, tell us what you got going on.
Well, I am streaming here on Twitch every Monday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific. I do drawing streams. Right now I'm kind of on a retro PC game kick at the moment. And I have some content on Fansly, mostly art and audios, but I will be streaming there eventually. And I'm at Ember__ glows both on Twitch and Fansly.
You can also find Ember on Reddit, where they are a script writer, and they also have a subreddit as well.
Awesome.
That is correct.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ember, thank you so much for jumping into this episode. I definitely thought of you immediately when I had this idea, and I'm so happy that you were able
Thank
to join.
you. Thank you, me too.
Best of luck always. Next up, Evie.
I stream Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday will just be a random whatever game I'm feeling stream. Sunday is always Hunt Showdown with my friend Asham. Yeah. You can find me there or on Twitter.
You can find Kiwi on Twitter. You can find Kiwi on TikTok as well. Kiwi has a very active
Oh, yeah.
TikTok. And yeah, I've seen Kiwi lots of times on Twitter. It's been really good to actually have a conversation and chat with you. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And last but not least, my co-host, Lady Mystique.
Hey everyone, I'm still Lady Mystique. You can find all of my links on ladymystique.tv. I stream on Twitch every so often, not regularly at the moment because I'm battling with my health a bit. And I'm leaning into making Fansly content. You can find photo sets, VR photo sets, I mean, not real life ones, videos, audios, and I will soon be in fact, next Friday in a week, I will be making my VR debut with Andy Bunn with all sorts of games and toy integration. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, come and have a look. It's cool. And I've just posted a 5-minute video with Papa Welsh that it was very athletic to do. I was tired. And thank you, Morgana. I truly appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like, Mystique talks about limitations, but Mystique's been pushing themselves harder than ever to do VR content, bouncing on the exercise ball. So please make sure you check that out next Friday.
Yes.
It's Lady Mystique on Fansly. And thank you, as always, Mystique, for being my co-host and bringing your valuable insight to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking me out the cupboard this week. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful.
She's like the sex doctor. She's like the one that brings like the psychological like insight and stuff about things. I love that. I love that she's like the word of wisdom. She's like the know all about. It's like, oh yes, I know about this. It's like Dr. Ruth. Like Dr. Ruth used to be a sex doctor, and she'd be like that old lady that had like that German accent. Like yes, Dr. Yes,
yes. Rest in peace, Dr. Ruth, who passed away.
Dr. Ruth, I know, poor baby.
Yes.
I was like, not Dr. Ruth. She was sex positive when everybody was sex Puritan. No.
An actual trailblazer.
Bless her heart.
Thank you, Mummy. I adore you.
You know,
to be compared to Dr. Ruth, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, you're the Dr. Ruth from the VTubing community. I love that.
You know, that is so much more complimentary than what I was going to say, which is...
Yeah, you were throwing her in the fucking closet again.
No, I was going to say English manners used to have something called a hermitage, where they'd have a hermit live in a hut, and you just go to the hut to get wisdom from the hermit.
How fucking dare you?
It's true, but the hut is my bedroom.
Sex hut in the back.
Yeah, I'm in my sex hut, just, in the lotus pose, levitating gently, waiting for Atra to take me out the cupboard on Friday night so I can come and talk loads, be bellicose on this podcast. And then come, yes.
You disrespect her that way.
It was a position of honor. It was an actual position of honor. Historically.
No.
I'm clipping this whole exchange.
Oh my God.
And as always, I've been your host, Atramentum_X, where I streamer and YouTuber. You can find all my links at atramentum.inc. That's atramentum.ink. The Depths is filmed not weekly, it's filmed on Friday nights here on Twitch. I will be taking a brief hiatus from the Depths because I'll be going on a rescue deployment in early August, but we will return around mid-August. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube and Spotify. Please follow all our amazing guests. And this is the part where I normally tease next episode, but we do not have a next episode lined up. So I'm going to leave you with the same introductory video from last episode featuring our lovely panel.
Yeah.
Have a lovely night, everybody, and take care. And remember, I don't have a sign off. Be sex positive. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.